Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of intense racing action in the one and only UK Sim Racing GT3 League Season 15, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing, and proudly sponsored by the virtual racing school VRS. We head towards the midway point of the championship campaign, numerically as it stands, and in round 5 of 10 we have made our way to Italy for the Misano World Circuit Marco Simoncelli, named after the local motorcycling hero who lost his life unfortunately in 2011. It is a circuit which is more commonly associated with racing on two wheels in the mainstream media, but if you look behind the scenes and underneath the surface, then you'll find that you've got a highly formidable circuit which is made for racing on four wheels just as much as it is two wheels. At its core, it's a very flat circuit, minimal elevation change, but it lacks an elevation change it more than makes up for with its 16 corners, a whole variety of sweepers, both medium and high speed, and also some rather tricky hairpins as interspersed by extended straights. It is a circuit like no other when it has the corners come thick and fast, and then major breathing points between the corners with extended straights to enable our drivers to get their throttles down and go battling under braking into the next corner sequence. To do well here, you're going to have to use all the circuit and be ready to get back on the throttle as soon as possible out of each and every corner sequence, and indeed those who are the smartest with the throttle, they may come out at the very top, whereas those who fall behind, they may find themselves languishing into battles they don't want to find themselves in. But how are we to know until we bring you all the race in action? We welcome you to this live broadcast from Circuit Side, indeed this post-round broadcast day for our 5th round of the championship, and we say hello to you guys and girls tuning in. Now you can be tuning in via one or two media platforms for your viewing pleasure. You could be tuning in right now via the official UK Sim Racing YouTube channel, of which on YouTube you just need to go to youtube.com and search for UK Sim Racing or UKSR, and you can be tuning in alongside the likes of Ruben Berings, who we say hello to there in the YouTube chat, and I hope you're doing well, Ruben. Alternatively, you could be tuning in via our official Twitch channel, and that's at twitch.tv/UK Sim Racing. And welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via Twitch. But regardless of what media platform you're tuning in on, you'll have the commentary brought to you of all the racing action by myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain's Bit, depending on what media you follow me on, and I'll be covering all your racing action over the entirety of this season, with all broadcasts being brought via post-round broadcast. But what exactly does that mean? Well, for the purposes of today's broadcast, the racing itself you're seeing is not live. It occurred yesterday evening on Sunday, the 27th of July 2025. We're bringing it to you as if it were live this Monday evening on the 28th of July. That means here in the commentary booth, we do not know what happens in the practice session that's currently wrapping up, nor the qualifying session that's upcoming, or of course the race that's due to get underway, and therefore it's completely raw and new to us here in the commentary booth, and we're going to bring it as close as possible to the raw live experience for you guys and girls tuning in at home. And as always, we do ask that if you do know the outcome of any part of today, whether it be qualifying or the race, please, no spoilers in the chat, and that way it's not just spoilers for us here in the commentary booth, but also for the guys and girls tuning in at home who are uninitiated, particularly if you've got friends and family tuning in. But as I try to get ready to go racing today, let's recap the championship so far and what lies ahead. Because as we can see, last time out we returned to the racing after our mid-season break week. On the 20th of July, it was round number 4 at the Virginia International Speedway, and there in the US state of Virginia we got to see some absolutely spectacular battles, but we also got to see some firm favourites leading the way. With the fact in the elite class, well, Daniel Stasuk made it 3 wins out of 3 appearances this season and seems to be unstoppable, albeit ahead of his teammate Nils Bauckhage, and right now the NJB Performance pair seem to be absolutely on top form. In the Pro Class, meanwhile, well, it was Ruben Berings who led the way there with regards to some major points being picked up. However, the man who really dominated proceedings was Christer Halsoy, who put in a last-minute pole position and in the end ran away with the Pro Class victory and took his first win of the season. And could the spotlight be shifting from Ruben Berings to Christer Halsoy? We'll have to wait and see. Whereas in the AM Class, well, Brecht Berings has announced himself as an early favourite for the title, no doubt about it, with another absolutely perfect score, and Cranleigh-Swash seems to be picking up the pieces in second. Whereas in the rookie class, where it was all on display between all the drivers there, we had 6 different drivers competing for the win, but in the end Alistair Murray was the one who took his first win of the season, as inch closer to the absentee championship leader BJ Alvarez. But we of course now arrive at round number 5 at the Misano World Circuit Marco Simoncelli, and of course the Italian circuit sets us up ahead of our second half of the season, which will see us make our way to France next week for the Circuit de Magny Corps, then to Brazil for round number 7 at the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, then to America for Road America America in round number 8, to the United Kingdom for the Silverstone circuit in round 9, and we bring the curtain down with round 10 of 10 at the Nürburgring Großpreisstrecke or the Grand Prix Strecker circuit on the 31st of August. And of course, as of next round, we will kick off the UK Sim Racing Challenge Cup, and we'll tell you more about that in next week's broadcast. But coming to our circuit for today then, let's talk a little bit about the Grand Prix layout of the Misano World Circuit Marco Simoncelli. Located near the municipality of Misano Adriatico in the Rimini province of the Emilia-Romagna region of Italy. Well, a big thank you to iRacing.com, not just for their simulator, but also their brilliant track maps. And here we can see this circuit, well, it's got a rather unique design. Not quite unique in the sense of a figure of 8 layout, like Suzuka perhaps, but it's unique in the fact that what you can see is the clustering of corner sequences as interspersed by those extended straights, and also some of those straights featuring major curves. But what this means around this circuit is that the corners are highly varied, and with variety comes a spice of life, and also the potential pretense of battling into those braking zones. But as our drivers roar the way down the start-finish straight, it'll be into the opening right into left there, turns 1 and 2, where it'll be about going for the late apexes before coming into turn number 3, and that'll be at the very end of Del Parco, before they roar the way up into Rio Bend at turn number 4. There, turns 4 and 5 make a rather elongated hairpin, but they'll need to get back on the throttle quickly going into turn number 6, because they'll roar the way onto the stretch, all the way up towards Quercia corner at turn number 8. There into the sweeping hairpin, it's going to be a slight uphill run in towards turn 9, but brake as they may into the right-hand kink, they'll have to go hard on the brakes by the time they get to the apex of turn number 10 at Tremonto, before blasting their way all the way down the back stretch. Down the back stretch, they'll find themselves going into curve on at turn number 11, completely flat out. But it's turns 12 and 13 where we could see some major mistakes, particularly on cold tyres in the early stage of the race, where too wide through there can be tantalisingly tricky, but even single file is where the mistakes can come. But get it right, coming out of turn number 13 for the medium speed sweeper, they'll come into Carra hairpin at turn number 14, before exiting out and going for the left-hand kink of turn number 15, and hard onto the brakes from Misano Bend at 16 to complete lap and do it all over again. But before we go racing, of course, a reminder of the rules. We can't go racing without them. Car setup-wise, it's an open setup series with fuel loads restricted to 60% for all of our races. Qualifying, which is due to get underway shortly, we'll see a closed qualifying format being used, with drivers having 4 flying laps in addition to their outlap available. Race-wise, the race shall commence via a double-file rolling start, as is the tradition of the UK Sim Racing GT3 League, and there is one mandatory pit stop in which fuel must be taken, but changing tyres is entirely optional. Each driver has 1 path repair available, and the driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 20 more instant points, and all race stewarding, for instance, eye contact between drivers, shall be conducted post-race. We also do have the continuation, and a big thank you to our title sponsor for this season, VRS, as we'll continue to be giving away a VRS competitive subscriptions to our competitors, and each round will be given away by separate raffle draws, a 3-month subscription, a 2-month subscription, and a 1-month subscription. And any driver who takes to the grid for the round, including today, shall be eligible to enter the raffle draw for each prize, so long as they have not won the prize in the previous round. And indeed, we do have some repeat winners following round number 4, and we'll tell you a little bit more about those later in the broadcast, as we'll be announcing our giveaway winners after the racing concludes here today. But let's head to circuit side then and introduce our schedule for tonight. Times in British Summer Time, that's BST, or Universal Coordinate Time +1, UTC +1, and as we can see, in just over 5 minutes time, we'll be making our way into qualifying. 10 minutes in duration, all the drivers out on circuit in their closed qualifying formations, and looking to get the best possible lap here before they make the way to the grid for our one and only feature race, 60 minutes of intense action. Now we're due to get underway at 8:10 this evening. It's a relatively cool start to the session here today, in the fact we do have an ambient temperature right now of what is 24 degrees centigrade, a track temperature of 25 degrees centigrade. Even though we are in the peak of summer in Italy, but I think the race being held quite early in the morning, and will compensate those rather high daytime temperatures. But as the drivers make their way around right now, it's definitely going to get fiery out there for those who are looking to go for gold. But only 35 drivers are able to make it to Italy today. We do have a slightly redacted grid compared to what we used to perhaps, but I get the feeling that does mean that whilst some drivers will be banking this being what would be their effective drop round, all those who are here today will be looking to try and get a big score. Now we do have some of the regulars out there, including Alberto Crivelli, who's looking to be the fastest driver currently in this practice session, with 1 minute 33.087, and that is the fastest not just overall but in the elite class, and he's looking sharp, as Daniel Stasuk meanwhile is 1.5 seconds, well in fact 1.5 tenths I should say, let me get that correct, off of him in terms of relative pace. But we have seen that Stasuk really comes alive in qualifying and then doesn't seem to stop until the end of the race, and that's been really the theme of the elite class this season, and the fact that Stasuk puts it on pole and he just completely controls the pace, with the only other elite win going to this man at Brands Hatch when Stasuk was not on the grid. However, when we look around in the elite class, we have got a new face from NJB Performance. It's not a new team. Indeed, the team have been on the grid for some time now, but we do have the Ford Mustang there for NJB Performance of Andrew Fairley, and we welcome him to the grid with open arms as he makes his debut here today in the 746 Ford Mustang, and we look forward to seeing what the Englishman is going to be able to do. He's joined the championship a little bit late, but he bolsters the team's ranks, and you never know, he could be a bit of a disruptive force when it comes to the status quo in the elite class. And good luck to Andrew on his debut. As he makes his way around there and is given a bit of space, well, we're on his way onwards now, and I believe that might have been one of our Porsche 992 drivers stepping aside from a class further down the field, albeit roaring away around there right now, trying to discern who that was. I believe that was Ruben Berings stepping aside, and well, there is the man who leads the Pro Class Championship for the DDK Racing Team, and one of two brothers out here. Of course, you do have Ruben in the Pro Class and Brecht Berings in the AM Class, and they really have been the forces that stormed their way to the front of the field, and they haven't looked back. But Ruben here are currently the fastest of all of our pros in this practice session, and could we see a repeat of what we saw last time out when he did take victory all the way back at Fuji? We'll have to wait and find out, because of course Christer Halsoy seemed to turn the apple cart upside down at the circuit last week at VIR, and well, Halsoy at the moment not here today unfortunately, and well, that's a surprise. Or no, in fact he is here. My eyes do me a disservice. There is Christer Halsoy, we can confirm, currently parked in the pit lane. I'm very happy to see him here in the Corvette Z06 GT3R, and we look forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do, given the fact that right now he's the only man who seems to have been able to take a candle to Ruben since the start of the season. Meanwhile, in the AM class, well, you would not be forgiven for thinking, is it the Brecht Berings show? Well, currently he is the fastest driver in AM by half a second or thereabouts, as we did see a brief moment there. Darren Sharp was getting it wrong, the second fastest AM driver, and well, we do have some more drivers putting in laps as they roar the way around, but we don't have too many AMs out there at the moment. They've all decided to relegate themselves to the pit lane, but instead what we do have is one of our rookies out there, and well, the rookie who made his debut at VIR and was on course for a podium until it all went wrong when a snake bit him in the backside, and that was our Ferrari 296 driver Luke Checker in the number 16, and as he makes his way around here, he'll be hoping for a much happier day today. And our rookies only have 4 competitors out there at the moment, so do keep in mind we are quite depleted when it comes to rookies here, but then again, this could be some big points up for grabs for Alistair Murray, Darren Giacovelli, Alex Brown and Mr. Checker, and we look forward to seeing who is going to come out on the top of all 4 of them. As they continue to trickle the way around here right now, the stage is set, the scene is captivated, and we are only a minute away from making our way into the qualifying session. And well, right now it is looking as though our fastest drivers in this practice session do have comfortable margins by which they're the fastest. But then again, practice is just one part of the story, as we see James Ibram taking a bit of a rallycross line to rejoin there, coming into turn number 14, I think running wide out of 13. But we will find out very soon whether the theory of practice is going to be put and applied into the practicalities and the realities of qualifying, or whether it's all just smoke and mirrors and a number of our drivers here are holding back their pace. That's always, of course, a fault when you do go from practice to qualifying, that some might be doing that race-based practice, whereas others will be doing that single-lap qualifying practice, and you have those drivers all in between. But we will see who exactly is going to be putting down the best lap times, because the checker flag is about to come out here on practice, ladies and gentlemen, and in the Italian circuit of Misano, it can only mean one thing: it is time to head to qualifying. And we'll be right back to kick off our qualifying session. And as we return, it is go, go, go for qualifying immediately, as quickly as it comes. We are set then, and with 35 drivers all looking to take to the tarmac here. Well, right now, the Emilia-Romagna region is going to absolutely light ablaze with fast machinery running its way on out. And well, one of many drivers there leaving the pit lane. There is Jack Barker, just gradually tiptoeing his way out of the pit lane exit on the run out to turn number 3. Now, what can we expect here at the Misano circuit? Well, this is a circuit of 2 extremes. You do have a lot of corners, very tightly compacted together, but you've also got some extended straights, and also you've got some high speed turns. So that means around here you can set the car up to conquer the corners best, particularly those lower speed corners. You can apply a lot of rear wing, but you will naturally lose out when it comes to the straights. However, there might be a bit of a middle ground. If you go to a medium to high downforce setup, so somewhere just slightly off of high, you'll get the best of both worlds on the straight and also in the corners, because you will want some rear wing, particularly when you go down the back stretch through turns 11, 12 and 13, where you need that rear stability to carry carry the speed, whether you're in front engine rear-wheel drive or mid-engine rear-wheel drive. And well, Jack Barker being one of many drivers who's really had to try and arise to the test of practicing here. And well, when we caught up with him in the build-up to this round, he was really struggling in his initial practice, only then for a little bit of tweaking to find 1.5 seconds worth of lap time over the course of his practice just by simply nailing those apexes and also using the runoff areas more effectively. And that's another thing around here. You'll notice, given this circuit originally was conceived more for racing on 2 wheels rather than 4 wheels, we have plenty of runoff space here, and that of course being for safety regards with regards to motorcycle racing. But that means with 4-wheel racing and closed cockpit in these GT3 machines, you can really exploit those curves and use all the runoff area there in order to gain the best possible lap time, as Jack Barker gives us a valid demonstration of how wide you can run out of the final corner. But as all the drivers make their way into their first flying laps, we'll have to wait and see who gets a little bit greedy with those exit and entry curves and potentially picks up off tracks and invalidates their laps versus those who get it absolutely right. Indeed, there's going to be a bit of a Goldilocks zone as they make the way around, but I'm sure all the drivers will be very aware of that, and with that cognizance, they'll be thinking one thing now, which is they've got to try and show that they've got all the theory in the mind. But as we do see Alistair Murray, last week's winner in the rookie class, heading around through turn number 3 and 4 and 5, while making his way for that double right, which always catches drivers out because it is slightly cambered towards the apex curbs. But Alistair Murray right now not showing any signs of losing the rear of that Mercedes, and roaring his way past us there with a 6.3 litre V8 naturally aspirated, absolutely screaming as it always does, as he now roars his way out of the left-hander at turn number 7 and up towards 9 and 10. But as he comes in towards the braking zone for that, well, we do look from him to Darian Giacovelli. And well, Giacovelli had a bit of a difficult time out last time at the VIR circuit. Things did not quite go the way he wanted them to. However, that could be said for many a driver, to be fair, at the VIR circuit. VIR definitely caught out a number of drivers for the fact it was not obliging for overtakes, and therefore I think our drivers will be much more keenly looking at potentially making overtakes here today. But VIR was definitely hold your track position as hard as you possibly can. But then again, some circuits are that way, and that puts an emphasis on qualifying versus others, which put an emphasis on race pace as well as qualifying ability. But as we do see Giacovelli roaring his way in towards turn 13 and through 14, nicely held together there in the Porsche 992, and he's looking quite sharp at the moment. But we are starting to get our first flying laps in, and well, surprise, surprise, the man who puts the benchmark 9 tenths clear of anybody else, albeit we've only got about 4 or 5 drivers getting laps in so far. Daniel Stasuk, the Elite Championship leader for NJB Performance, sets the bar at 33.663, and now the question is going to be who can get close to that or can surpass it, because you would imagine that Stasuk's going to be building up to an even faster lap there as he completely chops off the apex of turn number 5, which he'll get away with, and right now absolutely pushing as hard as he possibly can as he roars his way all the way up towards turn number 8. Into the left-hander he goes, and Tobias Kruken, meanwhile, well, of course, he enjoyed some absolutely brilliant battling with the likes of Pavel Dolzal at the VIR circuit, and he was running a little bit more rear wing compared to Dolzal, as we were to find out after the racing from keeping an eye on what was being said down in the paddock. And Kruken in the end just could not find a way to get ahead. He had all the speed in the corners, but didn't have the speed on the straights, and it was that contrast which just caught him out a little bit. But still, Kruken demonstrating some fantastic racing last time out, and we're looking forward to seeing whether he can demonstrate even more here today, and I'm sure he will be able to. Sam Derbyshire, meanwhile, as he gradually tiptoes his way through the right and into the left in the very colourful liveried Corvette Z06. Well, right now the 666 driver here, hoping for another strong performance today. Let's wait and see what he's going to be able to do as he makes his way onto the second straight. But as he does so, right now in 6th place, as Christer Halsoy gets very close, Corvette to Corvette. They're separated by only 4 thousandths with regards to the difference of the 2 lap times, and both of these drivers right now definitely building up that momentum as they carry on. But as they all head onwards, right now it is looking as though for Sam Derbyshire, all the pace is gradually coming together as much as he can bring it on around. But of course, this is just the first half a lap. He is on a personal best at the moment, but he'll be hoping for a little bit more as he comes across the sector line to complete sector 2 and in towards the 3rd sector he goes. And this is where you really make or break the lap if you've had a good one so far. But the amount of confidence, the amount of speed you carry into turn number 13, and he does that with absolute aplomb as he nestles the car now down into the apex of turn number 14, and Sam Derbyshire here looking absolutely in control of the car as we get ready for an onboard lap with one of our drivers. And as Derbyshire heads towards that timing line, what's it going to be here for him this time around? We will wait and see. He's going to cross that line now, and for Derbyshire it is going to be, we were 17th there, but he improves to 33.863 and moves all the way up to 6th place. A lovely lap from the elite driver. But in terms of an on-board lap, we're going to be jumping on board, ladies and gentlemen, very shortly with Christer Halsoy, as he's going to take us around here. The man who took victory in Pro Class last time out. We're going to get an on-board lap from a Corvette Z06 driver as he gets ready to attack another lap here and goes on to what will be his third flying lap. So as he roars about the final quarter, here we go then. We bring the dashboard up in the bottom right-hand corner if you want to carry the speed and the gears along, and across that line he goes. Now into turn 1 here, looks to his left-hand side and braking 150 metres a corner apex, down to third gear, and now a little bit firmer on the brakes into turn number 2. Orbit stays in third, and now full throttle through the right-hander at turn number 3. It's cutting the apex curve there to open up the corner, now in towards turn number 4. From fourth gear, he'll drop all the way down to second gear. Plenty of apex curve, back on the throttle. We'll let the car come out, then off the throttle, turn it into 5, and through the left-hander at turn number 6. Back to full throttle as soon as he connects the apex, and now from joining the dots, he gets a bit of a breather as he heads through the kink of 7 and over towards turn 8. You notice here, he lets the car hang to the right to open up turn number 8. Goes on the brakes at 150 metres from corner apex. Trail braking all the way to a late apex down to second gear. And from the left-hander now brings the car gradually over to the left-hand side of the road and in towards turns 9 and 10. Now here, braking nice and early, keeps the car in the centre of the road at 9. So he needs to set up the apex to turn number 10. Lets the car roll deep intentionally towards the apex and now get back on the throttle. And it's all the way up towards turn number 13. Flat out he goes here and in towards turn 11 first. He'll be flat out here through the right-hander and then lets the car come over to the left-hand side to open up turn number 12. Flat out through here, but lets the car run wide to set up 13, onto the brakes, drop 2 gears and back on the throttle and immediately slam the brakes on there 100 metres from corner apex at turn number 14. Back on the throttle, going out the hairpin and now over to the right-hand side quickly to get turn number 15 absolutely nailed on. As he does so now, 1 corner to go. It's Misano bend at turn 16, braking there at 100 metres from corner apex down to third gear. Absolutely smooth as butter there from Christer Halsoy. But how's that going to articulate itself with lap time? He jumps up to second place in Pro. Provisionally, that is, well, 1 minute 33.930. A lovely lap there. And now well within a second of the overall pole time, which currently sits with Pavel Dolzal. Well, could this be a change of form here? As Daniel Stasuk has just finished his final flying lap. And we are not, presuming all these laps stand, we are not going to see Stasuk take a pole position here today. It's going to go the way of Paceworks Esports' Pavel Dolzal by 9 thousandths. Now that is a surprise, but could this be the start of something? We will see as Michael Gray, the Full Tilt Motorsport, makes his way on through turn number 3, but he's on a cool-down lap here. He's exhausted all his flying laps. Brecht Berings, my good lord. Well, the man absolutely surprised everybody at VIR by taking the pole position ahead of the Pro pole sitter. But right now, Brecht Berings says, you know what, I'm going to go even one further. He's put himself 7th on the overall grid currently. Drops to 8th there with Nils Bauckhage dropping him down and moved up to 6th. And well, Berings on a cool-down lap here. I think right now he's going to be thinking to himself, am I at risk of being promoted to Pro after today? I think after these performances, the admins might be taking a bit of a look because his pace right now is absolutely incredible. That's not to slight him, by the way, but it goes to show you how far the Audi driver has come on since the start of the season, and it's got to be commended to him. He is absolutely ferocious, and well, from him to Peter Duke, the second place AM driver, well, the lap time delta is the best part of 7 tenths. He's in a world of his own out there. Meanwhile, in the Pro class, it's Ruben Berings, who's just taken Pro pole position by 2 tenths over Christer Halsoy. Albeit Halsoy on his final lap here and heading towards the line. What can he do this time around? He improves personally, but not enough. He drops it down to a 10th there, but Ruben Berings will take the Pro pole position, and Alistair Murray is going to take a rookie pole position there, 25th on the overall qualifying grid. And well, what a lap from Alistair Murray at 1 minute 34.9 versus Luke Checker's 1 minute 36.17. And I get the feeling here we might have a difference in experience and knowledge of the Misano circuit between our rookies, and Alistair Murray definitely doing his research beforehand. That's not to belittle Checker or Brown, but definitely looking as though Alistair Murray in control as we head to the grid, ladies and gentlemen, for our one and only race. But as we do, we say hello to Alex Brown in the YouTube chat. Good evening to you, Alex. I hope you're doing well. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, this is how our drivers lined up for round number 5 of the UK Sim Racing GT3 League Season 15, brought to you on iRacing and sponsored by the Virtual Racing School. With his first pole position of the season, Pavel Dolzal for Paceworks Esports lines up first of all, with 1 minute 33.143 being the time he set. 9 thousandths behind him, joining him on the front row, where is the Elite Championship leader, Daniel Stasuk for NJB Performance. Behind them, Michael Gray lines third for Full Tilt Motorsport, ahead of Tobias Kruken for Solpec Precision Racing. That is your top 4. Then on row number 3, we continue the theme of elite drivers with Alberto Gravelli for Effect Simulation starting 5th, and he was only ahead of Nils Bauckhage by 16 thousandths of a second, with the NJB Performance driver there sitting in 6th place. James Houseland takes 7th for Paceworks Esports and nowhere near close to his teammate today, 3.5 tenths off. We normally see Houseland and Dolzal joined at the hip, but not quite so. And instead, he's going to have the company there of your pole sitter, Brecht Berings, who starts 8th for DDK with Digital Motor Art. From the Belgian driver, we then come to the Briton of Stuart Reynolds, who starts in 9th place for Fury Simsport, and it is going to be debutant of Andrew Fairley for NJB Performance, who completes your top 10. Well done to him on his debut. Then coming outside of the top 10, starting 11th, it's going to be Sam Derbyshire for Simcoach. He is ahead of Ruben Berings for DDK with Race Anywhere, who is your pro pole sitter there, and the Berings family once again making a pair of pole positions. We then have, starting behind him, his rival from last time out of VIR, Christer Halsoy for Tractix Racing, but Halsoy is going to have some rivalry between him and Ryan Davies, who joins him on that 7th row of the grid, given that Davies is the man who's currently in 2nd in the championship, but Halsoy is quickly approaching him. Behind the Briton and the privateer, it'll be the Tractix Racing machine of Daniel Shilcock, who is just behind his teammate there, Christer Halsoy, and then we do have, starting 16th, Kasper Brockner for Old Dudes in Cars, the Danish driver there having a better qualifying performance compared to his previous rounds. Daryl Norquette for the Racing Forces starts 17th today, and we will see joining the McLaren driver on the 9th row of the grid, it will be Giles Philippets in the Mercedes AMG 2020 Evo. From the DDK with Race Anywhere driver, we will then have, starting at 19th place, James Ibrahim for Effect Simulations Carbon, and he'll be in the company of Peter Duke, who returns to the grid after a significant pause, and well, he returns in 20th place for DDK with Digital Motor Art. He's your 2nd place AM driver, and the AMs will continue to fly on through at this point because 3rd in AM class in this grid, 21st overall, it's Old Dudes in Cars, Darren Sharples. We then have Nathan Scott for Empire Motorsport having a difficult qualifying session, but he starts 22nd. He's got some ground to make up, but speaking of difficulty, look at that for Helder Gonzalez for Tractix Racing, all the way down in 23rd place. The Swiss driver there not having a happy qualifying session. Neil Kenyon, conversely, had a positive qualifying session. He starts 24th for UK Sim Racing Price, and in what is their 3rd place of the AMs, just ahead of Alistair Murray, your rookie pole sitter, who starts 25th on this grid, and the UK Sim Racing Hill driver is followed up by Sean Cranleigh-Swash, who joins him on the 13th row of the grid for Pigeon Racing, with Jack Barker starting 27th for Made for Racing, and he'll be hoping to complete at least 2 laps of the race today, given the fact his last couple of races have seen him in the barrier or arrears after 1 if not 2 laps, and he'll be hoping for a much more positive day because he is made to go racing, not to sit there in the pit lane. But from him, Daniel Pays will give him company on the 14th row of the grid for Old Dudes in Cars, and then behind the Portuguese driver it will be the fellow Ampere of James Connolly for UK Sim Racing Stewart and Nathan Anstis for UK Sim Racing Hill. Between the 2 sister UK Sim Racing teams, behind them, starting all the way back in 31st, will be UK Sim Racing Stuart. We've got the Triumvirate there, and it will be Rob Windsor, ahead of Luke Checker, who starts 32nd, the privateer. Then it will be the Swaziland driver of Swazi Golds, Darren Chacavelli, who starts 33rd, ahead of Slow and Steady Racing's Alex Brown, who's 34th on the grid. And then for your last 2 positions, it will be Matthew Sheraton, who starts 35th for Aztec Racing, ahead of Hoof Hearted's Simon Oldfield, with neither driver set in the qualifying lap, and I do believe that being due to penalties picked up from previous rounds and needing to be served with qualifying bans. So that's how your 36 drivers line up here today at the Misano World Circuit, Marco Simoncelli in Italy, and we are only now a few corners away from seeing green flag racing here, and when we do, well, for Pavel Dolzal, it's a rare opportunity here today for the man from Paceworks Esports to potentially lead his way away from the man who we ride on board with here, 2nd place on this grid, Daniel Stasuk, and the NJB Performance driver, much like his rival in front of him, and everybody behind him right now trying to inject as much heat into the brakes and tyres as possible. Particularly the tyres, because when we do go green flag racing, the opening few quarters, cold tyres and cold brakes are not going to be a wonderful combination. A bit of tyre temperature now could make a huge difference in that open lap and give the Acura driver the opportunity to try and leapfrog the Mercedes driver. But of course, Dolzal will be the one who dictates when we go green flag racing, and everyone will queue up behind there in their 2x2 very shortly. Looking further back, of course, Christer Halsoy, the Corvette driver who surprised everybody at VIR. Can he spring some surprises here today? Well, there was no surprise in qualifying. He's going to have to do the hard work in the racecraft, but he is surrounded by fellow pro drivers, including Ryan Davies and Ruben Berings, and he'll want to try and take on Berings as quickly as he possibly can. Peter Duke, well, he's going to have to try and find his momentum here, back on form in the what is the AM class, but we look to the front of the field. It's time, ladies and gentlemen, to take us to the green. Pavel out as he does so immediately at the final corner. He doesn't even give us a moment to breathe, and we are green flag racing before we can even call it as we head into round number 5 of the championship. And Pavel has a good start, but meanwhile Daniel Stasuk has to go defensive into the opening corner. He does so versus Tobias Kruken and Michael Gray. Kruken there on the inside of Gray coming through turn 2 in towards 3, and it's smooth moving there from Kruken and gets that absolutely nailed up into third place. Further back, we can see there Stuart Reynolds has got ahead of Brecht Berings, but the Ampulses is not going to be too upset about that, as everybody now staggers their way through the opening 5 quarters of this race. And as they do, we haven't had too many surprises so far. We had a bit of an incident for Alex Brown and Luke Checker, I believe. That's relegated them both down towards the back of the field, but otherwise everybody else is safely on through as we carry on away on this open lap. Playing towards the braking zone, we saw there a bit of a side-by-side moment between James Palsland and Nils Bauckhage and Stuart Reynolds. Well, they all tipped over each other there. A bit of flash of lights from Bauckhage. He's not too happy about Palsland going quite slowly through the corner, and well, the frustration building there. I think Stuart Reynolds in the Fury Simsport machine definitely showing his fury a little bit, but further on back, James Ibram gains another place there up the inside of Darren Norquette and moving forward, but it's a spin, and it's a big spin for Nils Bauckhage, who's gone around onto the grass down the left-hand side of your picture, and he's had a nightmare moment there coming out of the hairpin at turn number 10, and we'll have to get a replay of that when we can, but he drops all the way to the back of the field. So right now, NJB Performance definitely having a bit of a bruising here today when they were hoping to be cruising. A bit of a run wide there. Is that Brecht Berings running wide? Yes, it is. Through turn number 13, and now he's going to fall in amongst all the pro pack here. Ruben Berings and Christer Halsoy getting past him, but meanwhile Ryan Davies made to wait, and right now the Empire Motorsport driver will be very keen to try and get through as quickly as he possibly can, because he will not want the AM driver blocking him when he's got an opportunity to try and chase down the win here in the pro class. It may be early doors as we go on to lap number 2, but the thing is, time is of the essence here, and he wants the gaps to open up as Daniel Shilcott looks around the outside there in the Gold Tractics racing machine. He's going to look up the inside now into turn number 2, but takes an absolute plethora of the sausage curb with it, but in the end doesn't make the move quite happen, has to back off there, but definitely right now bearing his fangs, they make the way to turn 4, and again he takes a sneak peek up the inside and says, look, I'm coming for you. And I think Ryan Davies right now is trying not to look in his rear view mirror. Further back, we do have Peter Duke up the inside there of Giles Philippette for what is 18th place overall. Not a class position change, however, between the 2 DDK Racing Team drivers, but I think Duke at this point demonstrated he's got a bit more pace and wants to get a move on as they head in towards turn number 8, but of course they may rescind the favour and work things back the other way later on in the race if Duke can't move forward enough and Philippette starts to gain on him. But it's been an interesting opening couple of laps, no doubt about it. It's going to get even more interesting there, as that is your pro leader Ruben Berings siphoning up the inside of Sam Derbyshire. Where he sees an opportunity, he's going to take it, and that puts him ahead of an elite driver and forces a bit of traffic between himself and Christer Halsoy, his pro rival right now. So Ruben Berings feeling a bit of pressure here, and well, you can see Derbyshire trying to come back at him immediately, but no, there's no real way through into turns 12 and 13 unless you're too wide already towards 12, otherwise you have to back out because a lunge there is tantamount to disaster. Christer Halsoy meanwhile lunges up the inside of his fellow Corvette driver, and Sam Derbyshire right now for all his qualifying pace, it doesn't seem to be working out. However, Halsoy's not quite nailed the move, and Derbyshire comes back at him. Side by side they go, elbows out here. It's Corvette on Corvette. It's a civil war of the American machines, and he's elbowed out wide as Halsoy, and that's going to give Brecht Berings an opportunity to get ahead. And Halsoy's not going to be too happy about that. I think Derbyshire will say, you know, if you're going to get your elbows out, I'm going to get mine out as well. And we're coming in towards turn number 1 this time. Now Halsoy's got Ryan Davies right behind him as the McLaren driver has got Daniel Shilcock coming up the back of him as they roar the way in towards turn number 4. It's getting definitely intense in this mid-pack right now as they all continue to push each other along. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're all going to have to try and call their heads down as James Ibram picks off another driver up the inside there, Casper Brotner into turn number 4, and out of 5 he confirms the move and in towards the left-hand flick of turn number 6, and will blast their way on the throttle pedals now, and Ibram continuing on his way. His next target will be Daniel Shilcock, and the elite driver who qualified out of position right now is trying to pick the positions back up as here comes Shilcock up the inside of Davies. The 2 McLarens there touch paint, and well, it's a lovely move from Shilcock to get up the inside. Davies been quite obliging there, to be fair. He could have shut the door a bit more firmly, but in towards turn number 9, and this is Davies coming back as they make contact, and well, a bit of a wobble there on the rear end of Shilcock's McLaren, but I think both drivers there backing it off before it ended up in disaster, and Daniel Shilcock still ahead by a nose or thereabouts, albeit Ryan Davies gets the better exit coming out to turn number 10. It's a drag race into 11. Now we're going to see 2 wide into turn number 12. Davies is on the inside. Shilcock's going to be brave if he tries to hang around the outside, and in the end he literally taps the rear of his rival. They both go deep, and in towards turn number 14 they go. They're using all the track and plenty more. Well, they paid for it on their admission tickets today, and they're going to use it, I say. But as they come in towards turn number 14, it's close racing between the 2 of them. But right now, Ryan Davies and Daniel Shilcock absolutely hot-blooded with each other as they head towards another lap. But after 4 laps of racing, it's Pavel Dozau who still leads, but Daniel Stasuk is right behind him. They're your overall and elite leaders. Behind him, you've got Tobias Kruken in 3rd, breaking away from Michael Gray in 4th. Alberto Gravelli is in 5th, meanwhile, chasing after Michael Gray, and then it will be James Powell in 6th, close behind Gravelli. You can see him there in the pictures. Stuart Reynolds sits 7th, ahead of Andrew Fairley on his debut, who's had a reasonable start in the NJB Performance Mustang, and you do have your pro leader of Ruben Berings in 9th, ahead of Sam Derbyshire in 10th, with Brecht Berings, your AM leader, sitting in 11th currently. And as for your rookie leader, it is Darian Giacovelli at the moment, who's found his way ahead of Alistair Murray. Well, Giacovelli into lead of the rookie class here. That is a story, and we're going to need to find out what's exactly happened there. They've got Simon Oldfield between the two of them. I wonder whether Giacovelli's really found a turn of pace here, or whether alternatively there's been a mistake from Alistair Murray, or a combination of the two. Jack Barker's further back there as well. I think Barker's had a bit of difficulty in the opening couple of laps, but as we look back, that's Alex Brown currently fighting for 3rd place in the rookie class. He's got Luke Checker right behind him, coming down in towards turn number 8. Checker's up the inside, and the slow and steady racing BMW driver decides to go for the cut back there, but makes it a little bit too deep under braking, and Checker up the inside and takes the place and now tries to move onwards. But I think these two drivers will most likely try to work together a little bit. But looking back towards the front of the rookie field, we can see Simon Oldfield in the very colourful Am McLaren. Well, Darren Giacovelli and Alistair Murray right now, they're very close together, and Murray coming back here. That Mercedes is looking very strong in the draft, and coming in towards turn number 13. Well, Giacovelli goes defensive this time, but it's close between them, there's no doubt about it, and I get the feeling it's going to be a question of when, not if, a potential move could come. But meanwhile, coming back to the elite class just in time, that is a change position. That's James Powsland going inside to outside on Alberto Grelli, and Stuart Reynolds here says if Grelli's out of position, I'll make it happen too if you don't mind. And well, Grelli won't be too happy about that, but Stuart Reynolds right now, and we're laughing all the way to the bank with that move, because that moves him up into 6th place in elite and overall. And well, our drivers continue to push onwards here as we tear away on another lap. But as we do so, it's the perfect time now to take a look back at some of the moments from the start of the race, and indeed what's happened over the opening 4 laps. So let's get some replays going, starting with the incident involving Alex Brown and Luke Checker. Now this was right at the start, and as they went green flag racing, Luke Checker was just in front of Brown, and we're going through turn 16. Brown getting it wrong, and Checker doing the same. Both of them there, synchronised spinning and on cold rear tyres, trying to get the power down too soon, and it all went backwards for the pair of them. We then had this later on in the opening lap. Nils Bauckhage coming in towards turn number 10, at a time under pressure from the Fury Simsport machine of Stuart Reynolds, as he made his way out the corner, got the power down, and the Ford Mustang simply said, it's around we go. An easy mistake to make there, even for the most elite of drivers. We then had this happen to Helder Gonçalves later on lap number 1, and well, this was Gonçalves into turn number 14, battling side by side there, and Gonçalves fighting hard with Nathan Foster. Oh, that got very, very nasty between the two of them, and Gonçalves in the end being turned across the front of the Empire Motorsport Porsche 992 and ends up in the grass, but thankfully not in the gravel. We also had this happen to Daniel Pays on the opening lap. A lot of incidents in the background on the open lap that we didn't quite catch. This was a side-by-side battle into, I believe, that was the final corner with none other than Alistair Murray, and Pays in the end on the outside, the rear right tyre not gripping up and going to the barrier. Well, that's a nasty shunt. Then you have to wind forward to lap number 3 to see what happened to Jack Barker, and well, the made for racing driver making his way through turn number 5 and in towards 6, turns in, and the rear of the car let go before he even made it to the apex. Now I can imagine that was a pendulum effect over the rear axle, and in the end the rear of the car just letting go. But that's mid-engine rear wheel drive for you, and well, the Acura driver there getting it wrong but trying to get it back together. We also did have a bit of a moment later on for Alistair Murray, but how did Darren Giacovelli make the move for the lead of the rookie class? Well, this was Murray versus Giacovelli in towards turn number 10 on lap number 3. Murray went deep, and Giacovelli simply said, you know what, I'm going to take that. And well, they had a drag race down the back straight, and we're side by side all the way through. Simon Oldfield tried to play third player to this one, but in the end was made to wait. But Murray on the outside, Giacovelli on the inside, and Giacovelli did not back off here as he went in towards turn number 12. This was full commitment for the Porsche driver from Swazi Gold, and well, up the inside he went, and a lovely move there from Darren Giacovelli. Indeed, one of his best moves of the season so far. Let's head back to your live racing, ladies and gentlemen. So as we come back to your live racing, plenty more to come over the distance, no doubt about it. And well, we do say hello to Ryan Walker there in the YouTube chat as well, the official photographer from Ryan Walker Sim Racing Photography for the UK Sim Racing GT3 League. And if you do love the screenshots that we do use for the thumbnails of these broadcasts, and indeed if you're ever interested in some of your own sim racing photography as done by a professional, we can definitely recommend Ryan Walker Sim Racing Photography. And if you've got any questions, be sure to ask the man in the YouTube chat or get in touch with him after today's broadcast. podcast. I'm sure he'd be very happy to talk to you about fair rates and indeed fair photos in between. But on lap number 7, we come back to all the live racing, and in terms of the number of laps we're expecting here today, we are expecting a grand total of 38 laps, given the relatively short lap around here compared to some of the other circuits we've raced around this season. So we're going to get plenty of laps in, and we're not even a quarter of the way there yet based on my mathematics. We are approximately about 10 minutes into the race distance. But as we do see Pavel Dozal continue to gradually abscond off into the distance, we're bringing Daniel Stasuk with him, and these two continue to push each other to the limit, with Tobias Kruken right now not quite on the pace by comparison. But then again, we could be seeing a bit of strategic play here, and that's one of the things that many of our drivers in the elite class will be wary of. Stasuk, he has demonstrated if he's leading up front, he has a way of saving a lot of fuel, and he normally is the shortest time in the pits compared to anybody out there, and I won't be surprised if the Acura driver is already thinking about trying to go for the undercut or the overcut in the pit stop itself. But looking to Andrew Fairley, he finds himself right now with Sam Derbyshire for close company in the back of the Battle of American Muscle. One piloting a 5-litre V8, the other piloting a 6.2-litre V8, and more the former being the Mustang, the latter being the Corvette Stingray, and we're heading up towards turn number 1. No difference between them at this time, as we do say good evening there to Neil Kenyon. I hope you're doing well, Neil, and good to have you in the YouTube chat. But all the drivers here continue to put on good displays, no doubt about it, as Ruben Berings there, an uncharacteristic error coming out of turn number 2, has run wide. He rejoins, and Andrew Fairley and Sam Derbyshire both get through, but both of the Berings brothers here having a little degree of difficulty at Misano, and well, I don't think they're getting complacent, but definitely the circuit is biting back at them, and the DDK Race Anywhere drivers right now just trying to keep their heads down and push onwards as much as they possibly can. As you can see there, Brecht pulling out the toe of his brother, and I think just trying to give himself a little bit of clear vision of turn number 8, and also not trying to overheat the front tyres. And we do know that Audi is very picky with regards to its brake and tyre temperatures. Indeed, it is perhaps the most precious or princess-like of all the machines in the GT3 category is the Evo 2. But as they continue to make the way around, things have calmed down for a brief moment, albeit I say that, and with Gilles Philippet's getting closer to his teammate Peter Duke at the moment. Remember, they're both in 2 different classes, with Philippet's being in the Pro class, Duke being in the AM class. They swapped places early on, with Philippet's not really putting too much of a battle up when he did let Duke past, but I wouldn't be surprised right now if they might be considering a switchback of the places, given Philippet's now seems to be the faster of the 2 drivers, unless this is a lot of fuel saving he's trying to achieve here. But he does have to be mindful of the fact he is currently at 2.5 seconds off of Casper Brotner, who is the 5th place man in the Pro class, to his 6th place, and therefore he won't be wanting to lose too much time to the old dudes in cars driver. But conversely, of course, Peter Duke will not be wanting to lose too much time to this man behind him. It's old dudes in cars Darren Sharples, who is the 3rd place AM driver and is currently just as fast, if not faster, by 3 tenths on the previous lap, and also on this lap. In fact, by 6 tenths he was faster compared to Peter Duke. So both drivers are absolutely pushing onwards as they roar the way on around. Now, I do believe, as we say hello to Nathan Scott, there was a little bit of a miscommunication of identity there with regards to what happened to Helder Gonzalez earlier. We thought it was Nathan Foster, but it was a Nathan, but not quite the right one. It was Nathan Scott who ended up in that contact, as Nathan has just obliged to tell us, oh, that's a big slide there, and that is going to be Gilles Philippet's around, as turns 4, 5 and 6 catch out another driver, and we saw it go wrong for Jack Barker only moments ago, and we'll throw an AM to a Pro driver. Now the DDK Mercedes has gone around, and Gilles Philippet's there will get the car turned around very gradually, but he can't reverse any further back as long as he put himself on racing line. So Philippet's there with a spin, an unconventional one for him, but it went wrong. He's now got it back together, and well, in the meantime, we've now got all fighting exploding onto our screens, because Nathan Scott has just been able to clear Neil Kenyon, who's having to hold off Matthew Sheraton, the man who started from the very back of the grid on what was the 18th row, having not qualified, with Sheraton right now in the Aztec Racing BMW. Close and looking for an overall position here versus Neil Kenyon, as they head in towards turns 11, 12 and 13. And we do know the BMW and the Mercedes, 2 straight line monstrosities, and well, Sheraton trying to poke his nose in, coming in towards the corner, couldn't quite do it, as we jump on board here with the 390 machine, and well, Sheraton there really playing the game. One thing he's very good at when he's absolutely on point is putting his nose in the right place at the right time to annoy the driver in front and unsettle the driver. It's something it's very risky to do. Sheraton tried it there into turn 13, which was just tapping his nose in a little bit to try and get Kenyon to run deep, and he tried to look again in towards turn number 1. Of course, the upside of it is it can really get into your rival's head, so your rival will think you're going to make contact. However, if you do make contact as a result of it, 9 times out of 10, you're the one who's going to be liable when you go to the steward's room afterwards for the fact the blame will be apportioned to you for sticking your nose in where it didn't belong. So it is a trick of the trade, but you've got to be very smart about it. But Cheverton, when he gets it right, he's one of the best out there for already being a nuisance sticking in the BMW grille where it doesn't belong. And as he comes out to turn number 6, well, right now, still behind Neil Kenyon and still trying to find a way past the Mercedes in front. We can see these two machines very equal in terms of that straight line speed performance and rolling the way through turn number 8 right now. Well, the 390 driver here gets the better corner exit and, well, he's looking one side then the other. I think Cheverton's going to be sizing up a move here. Tries to go all the way around the outside. It's going to be late on the brakes and he's going to go all the way around. It's going to be a bold move from Cheverton. It does mean now that Kenyon will have less exit speed because, of course, he's had to take a tighter line and immediately Cheverton capitalises, gets firmly in the toe as Sean Cranleigh-Swash flashing his lights there to say to the two in front, can you politely stop battling because I want to come through. Well, now Cheverton looking up the inside into turn 12 and 13 he goes, and this time Cheverton gets it done. He was close enough on the overspeed there to make it happen, and Neil Kenyon not too happy about the fight. However, well, now he's got to worry about Sean Cranleigh-Swash who's right behind him, and it will be the battle of 2 V8s now as the leading one from Germany will have to fend off the American upstart as they roar the way in towards Misano Bend. But Kenyon and Sean Cranleigh-Swash, there's nothing between them as they fight over 4th place in the AM category, and almost they go towards another lap. Now, whilst all this has been happening, we have had a bit of drama for Darren Giacovelli. We haven't quite caught that on camera, but he's dropped from the lead of the rookie class all the way down to 35th position and last of the runners in the rookie class, unfortunately, and a sizable gap as well. I think there was some big damage to the car whilst we were going through the opening lap replays. We're not quite sure what's happened, but definitely it's not gone the way that Darren's wanted it to, and we do feel sorry for him as a result. He was looking very good at the early stages of the race, particularly with that move on Alistair Murray, but still, as time continues to push on here, all-wheel drives right now going into the second quarter of this race, and well, I think for many it's all going to be about where do they go from here and where do they apply the strategy. Well, if you look to the pro class, of course, we do have some rather interesting manoeuvring going on at the moment, with the fact that Daniel Shilcock, the third place runner in the McLaren, just ahead of the focus of our cameraman's attention, the McLaren of Ryan Davies, and you do have Casper Rotner not too far behind. So the final spot on the pro podium, definitely right now looking to be interchangeable, and this could be won just as much when it comes to the pit stops as it could be won out in circuit. Albeit Daniel Shilcock did have a bit of a lightning fast start compared to some of his fellow pro drivers. However, since the opening 5 laps, his pace now has started to turn down a notch, and if anything, in fact, he's a bit slower than the pros around him. The only one he is outpacing would be Nathan Scott, all the way down in 20th place overall, 6th in class. But Daniel Shilcock right now, out of the top 5 of the pros, he is off the pace by about 2 tenths, and it is showing a little bit because he's fallen backwards into the clutches of Davies and Brotner. Again, this could all be part of tyre saving and fuel saving strategy, but I'd imagine he won't want to fall back too much more because otherwise he is going to be under threat the deeper he goes into the distance. Meanwhile, that's a bit of drama in the exit of the final quarter. That's the Racing Forces car, Darren Norquette, that's pointed in a perpendicular direction to the race's surface. He's having to wait for the whole field to come through. Not quite sure what's happened there to Darren Norquette. We know the aftermath, and that is a spin and not one to win. But he brings it back together. Well, Daniel Payes there is going to take evasive action in due time. Luke Checker is currently making his way around as well. We believe we lost him and he's come back from the ethereal ether, and well, looking back up the road, we do have there Rob Wins and Nathan Anstis now starting to get a little bit closer to each other as these two fight over 9th place in the AM class, and we're nothing between them at the moment, with Anstis inching closer and closer of every corner turned. We ride on board the dashboard here of the UK Sim Racing Hill driver, and well, looking to battle after his teammate from UK Sim Racing, but Anstis there not having the exit he wanted coming out of turn number 6, and the gap opens up for a brief moment as we do look back to the class standings and confirm this is the fight for 9th place in the AM class. But as he comes down onto the brakes here in towards turn number 10, starting to notice as well the fact that tyre degradation will be a bit of a factor. The left-hand side tyres really do take a bruising at Misano with the number of high-load corners, particularly on the second half of the lap, where turns 10 all the way through to 14, all loading up this tyre quite aggressively, and therefore tyre temperatures on the left-hand side plus the wear rates do become a big factor. And well, Nathan Anstis right now nice and close to his rival, and Rob Winter meanwhile on a bit of a compromised line there going into turn 13, took quite a tight entry line, and I wonder whether that is because he's right now feeling that the rear of the McLaren is starting to become a bit unsettled on that rear left tyre, and therefore taking a bit of a slight entry speed on the tight line, just helping him nurse that tyre on through. But coming out turn number 16, he won't be nursing it anymore because Nathan Anstis getting a lightning rod run out the corner, but backs off immediately there in towards turn number 1 and decides not to go for it. And I think right now, just looking for a move, should it be blatantly obvious he can make it, but otherwise letting Rob Windsor run his race and therefore trying to work with his teammate. Looking back up into the elite cars, and as we do, this is Alberto Gravilli. He started in 5th, he's dropped to 6th, and right now he's under pressure to drop to 7th as he heads all the way into the right-hander here at turn number 13. That is Stuart Reynolds close behind, as we have briefly lost Tobias Krugen. No, he's come back in fact. He decided to disappear and reappear. We thought there might have been a bit of drama there for the Sopec racing driver, but not quite so, at least not for the time being. Alberto Gravilli and Stuart Reynolds here getting closer to each other, and well, Stuart Reynolds here I think looking for an opportunity. The runner form here dictates, would normally dictate the front engine rear wheel drive would not be the drivetrain to use given the number of corners and the amount of loading in those corners. However, I say that, and then we do have a Mercedes leading this race right now, so that puts to bed any fears about the drivetrain situation, as we do see Dolzal leading with Daniel Stasuk right behind him. But we wonder whether Stasuk here might be just pacing himself in the NJP Performance Acura, and he's forcing the Paceworks Motorsports machine of Dolzal to work harder to just stay one step ahead, because Stasuk right now, well, he missed out on pole position by 9 thousandths, so he's missed out on the bonus point there, but in terms of lap times, these two absolutely dead even with regards to laps at this point. Last lap of 33.37 for Dolzal, for Stasuk of 33.33 to the nearest 100th, and they've been like that ever since really the start of the race. So you would imagine that either they're equaling each other, or Stasuk alternatively right now is deciding just to match his pace to the car in front and is saving some fuel. Alternatively, Dolzal has found a way to make sure that Stasuk's got to drive at 100% all the time. That is a third theory, which if so would go against the grain, but to be fair, Dolzal is no sleeper when it comes to racing, and he's had some great performances this season, and he's looking to follow it up here today. Looking back to Matthew Sheraton, meanwhile, as we say hello to him in the YouTube chat, who enjoying starting from the back of this race, no doubt about it. Well, he's now going to take on Nathan Scott as he roars his way out to turn number 10, and the BMW driver looking for 6th place in the Pro class, but what can he do as he powers his way along? Well, we ride on board, looking down over the dashboard here, and as he does so, heading through the right-hander, turn number 11, in towards 12 and 13. Well, he's going to go for it. He's going to go for it very late. I don't think he will at all. He'll just keep the pressure on Scott here and breathe down the neck of the Porsche driver, and Sheraton decides to go a little bit deeper there to get the cut back coming out the hairpin. It doesn't quite work. However, it's putting the pressure on Scott, and that's the most important thing, as he absolutely cuts his way over the apex curve at turn 15, looks the inside into 16, trying to get into Scott's head. It sort of works because Scott goes slightly deep. However, Sheraton coming back onto the racing line at short notice outbrakes himself and almost makes the same mistake as Scott. However, looks up the inside into turn 1. Can't quite get fully alongside for braking, but Sheraton right now, I can tell you one thing, this man is looking every way around his rivals, and you can imagine like a boxer right now, he's bouncing all over the ring, but he only needs one to land one blow, and this could be it here into turn number 4, looking up the inside, on the brakes they go, and Matthew Sheraton there squeezes his way through and takes 6th place in the Pro class. Lovely move there for Matthew Sheraton, but can Nathan Scott come back at it? Well, he's going to do it quick, because Neil Kenyon right now is going to be looking at the Pro pair and saying to them, can you politely get a move on, because I'm bringing Sean Cranleigh-Swash with me. Well, here comes Scott immediately back up the inside and gets it stopped right on the apex there, and Matthew Sheraton has found his match, it would seem, as they make the way out the left-hander. They trade a little bit of paint. Sheraton on the inside now into turn 9. And Nathan Scott staying with him. They really elbow each other into the corner. And Nathan Scott there trying to pin Sheraton as tight as possible to the apex 9 to compromise his line through 10. But Matthew Sheraton saw it coming and said, you know what, I'm going to make sure this BMW suddenly gets a little bit wider. But now it's a drag race all the way out towards turn 11. Sheraton's ahead for now. The Porsche, however, of Scott is still looking quick. It's looking very quick in the slipstream. And coming in towards turn 13, Sheraton finally puts the stamp on that move, at least for the time being. But I wouldn't be surprised if Nathan Scott wants a rematch on that one, because he'll feel as though he's got the pace, he just needs to deliver it. The only problem is now he's got Neil Kenyon breathing down his neck. But there's that's drama. That is drama in the sandpit at turn number 16, and that is Casper Brotner not playing sandcastles, but in a Mercedes that's come to an abrupt halt. Is it buried there in the gravel? I think it might be, and Casper Brotner's had to tow to the pit. The car's there, something's gone very wrong, and Casper Brotner's race is done and dusted. No pun intended, but with all the dust coming up there, it's going to settle very shortly, and we've seen all go wrong for Casper Brockner. Can we get a replay of that? I think we can. And, well, only earlier on in the lap, we've had also trouble for Old Duty Cars' Daniel Pays. Lap number 15 for Old Duty Cars has been a nightmare lap. And, well, we're going to find out the stories of both drivers in very short order. But before we do, will we see Nathan Scott look for a turn move? We won't. And I think Nathan Scott, with that run wide out of turn number 6, has picked up a slowdown penalty for his endeavours. And he's just led the slowdown penalty as he heads into turn 8 there and lets Neil Kenyon on through. Kenyon, however, makes a complete ham sandwich of the hairpin and runs very wide. They're all making mistakes here. And now here comes Sean Cranleigh-Swash up the inside of Scott. I think Scott still had some of the slowdown to burn. And the Pigeon Racing Ford Mustang creeps ahead. And Nathan Scott right now is going to need to regroup and go again. But as he gets ready to regroup and tackle Sean Cranleigh-Swash, will he be able to do it now? The answer is no. That Ford Mustang is a little bit too fast as they head on the back straight. But Scott very eager to and flashing his lights there to say to him, can you let me through? But from them, we look to two drivers in the AM class fighting, and this is Barker versus Cranleigh. And well, I believe Jack Barker's just found his way through, moving up into 7th place in the AM class. But James Cranleigh is old rival. Indeed, these two have been rivals for the best part of 4 seasons of the GT3 league now, if my memory serves me correctly. Well, there's Cranleigh looking up the inside, trying to force the move, trying to sight Barker into a mistake. Doesn't quite work out, however, as they come out of turn number 14 and through the right in towards the left they come. And well, right now, Jack Barker feeling secure, at least for the moment, as we take a look back at what happened to Old Dudes in Cars on a lap not to be remembered, lap number 15 for Daniel Pays and also Casper Brockner. Now, this is initially what happened to Daniel Pays in his machine. The AM driver making his way through turn 3 in the rear, just letting go. Caught it, and suddenly the car swung back the other way and said no. So Daniel Pays went around and immediately towed to the pits. I think something was wrong in the car initially. This happened subsequently for Casper Brockner, and this is how we saw him in the gravel at turn 16. Ran a bit wide out to turn 15. We lost him. And he's come back, and something's going wrong whilst we've lost him. I believe he may have run wide, and that's bounced him off of the entry curb into turn 16, and the car just rolling into the gravel. Well, I'll be not the way he's wanted it to go, but on a more positive note, in terms of all the battling out there, this was Jack Barker versus James Cranleigh, only a lap ago on lap 16, and this is how Barker made the move on Cranleigh, moving up into 7th place in the AM class. We had to be bold about it. That was very tight under braking into turn number 9. Cranleigh saw it coming, however, and went for the cutback instead. And it was the drag race out the corner, which we caught live on your screen only moments ago, as we now return to your live racing. And as we come back to the Barker-Cranleigh battle, but you can see how they've started to separate, and they're bringing Rob Windsor along with them as they make their way upwards towards the end of another lap. But from these drivers, we must come all the way back to the front of the field, because we are almost at the halfway point here now on lap 18 of an anticipated 38 laps, including the pit stop. And what we can see is Pavel Dolzau and Daniel Stasuk, they have opened up a 7-second gap to Tobias Kruken in 3rd place. You can see him there in the rear of the picture. That shows you how quick they are going. But interestingly, well, our top 2 close together. 3rd through to 5th are also within touching distance of each other. Kruken, Gray and Palsland all pushing each other onwards here as they roar the way in towards turns 11, 12 and 13. We could see a bit of a mix-up here on strategy, and I would not be surprised if the Solpet Precision Racing driver of Kruken right now in that 14 Mercedes might be worried, as Palsland there with a lock-up under braking into turn 14. That front right brake being abused there on the Paceworks Esports machine. Well, that goes to show you, even the ABS, they can still lock those brakes up if they push them too hard. Brake temperatures might be starting to become a bit of a concern, as Palsland practically drifting his way into turn 16 there. The brake bias on that Mercedes must be very much rearward, given the fact you don't normally see the Mercedes AMG machine drift like that under braking, but a rearward brake bias would definitely unlock the rear brakes first, and it would see the car glide into the apex. It would come loose under braking, which is the whole idea behind it. But as our drivers continue onwards, we look at the overall standings. And what we can see still, laps being delivered by everybody out there at the moment, and it does seem as though no pit stops occurring. -1. We do have Alex Brown into the pits from 3rd place in the rookie class, and he's had his pit stop and taken on fuel. We also do have Nils Bauckhage in the pit lane at the moment. In fact, he's recently left the pit lane, so he served his pit stop. We've also got Casper Brockner and Daniel Pays in there, but they're recovering from their instance, so only 2 drivers so far taking their mandated pit stops. And I can imagine everybody else at this time, well, will be thinking about one thing and one thing only, and that is how much further can they go. Well, as we continue to watch the bottom end of your top 5 overall push each other onwards, well, they continue to keep each other in honest distance. We look a bit further back to Alistair Murray, the rookie leader. And he's currently running 23rd overall, chasing after Simon Oldfield as he comes in towards the right-hander at turn at number 4. And well, right now, Alistair Murray in control of his class's race, given the fact Luke Checker's all the way down in 27th place, and the gap between the two of them spanning the best part of 16 seconds. So it does look to be quite a comfortable run here for Alistair Murray. But of course, to finish first he must finish, and that's what he's got to do right now, is just keep putting the laps in, as we're definitely now over the halfway point of this race in terms of time. We're about 32 minutes in, and we may very likely see some pit stops start to emerge soon, as we've got Nathan Astis into the pit lane. So another driver makes their way down pit row, but how many more laps will it be before we see the big exodus to the pit lane? That is the question that we want the answer to. Well, we'll have to wait and find out that as we do look to your pro leader. He's Ruben Berings, and well, the DDK Porsche 992 driver right now looking to be in complete control of the pro class here. Christer Halsoy, however, it should not be understated, is still doing a good job keeping him honest and matching Berings' lap times. You can see Halsoy there in the Tractix racing machine, only 2.5 seconds behind at the moment, but they do have the intervening cars of Sam Derbyshire and Brecht Berings between the two of them, and that, of course, will just put a slight spanner in the works there if your name's Christer Halsoy, because he would ideally like to have a clear run on his rival. But then again, what could strategy demonstrate? Because Christer Halsoy has definitely had to work his way into second in the pro class. However, now he'll be hoping that he can have a more settled race and just try to reel on in what will be his second win of the season. Well, we'll have to wait and see. As Peter Jukes in the pit lane as I look out my commentator booth window, as is now Luke Checker. Some more pit stops playing out there for drivers. It does seem as though more now starting to see the end of their fuel tanks, but a lot of the big names are yet to come on in. As we have Christer Halsoy making his way onwards, James Ibram a bit further behind, and well, right now the elite driver 10th in class, while the last of the elite runners out on circuit, and we're heading in towards turn number 11. Definitely right now for Lamborghini Huracan driver, all a learning experience here, because his elite status coming off his I rating and his experience in the UK Sim Racing Multiclass League, where he has been a bit of a speed demon in the LMP2 machine, but applying his trade to the GT3, less downforce and a bit of a different machine in terms of the amount of speed and brake horsepower it has. In turn, it does mean it's a different beast for him to conquer, but he's gradually learning to conquer it little by little. On his way out of the final corner there. Good to see the Effect Simulations Carbon driver still pressing onwards as he goes on to his 21st tour of the circuit under race conditions. But from him, we look all the way back to the front of the field, and here we can see Pavel Dozal, the elite and overall leader, still keeping Stasuk at bay, for now at least, by half a second, as behind him, your eyes do not deceive you, that is a Ford Mustang that's recently come out of the pits, and that is Nils Bauckhage, who is a lap down. Unfortunately, he's not in the fight for the overall win. He is a lap off of it, although he would love to be there, and right now I'd imagine that his philosophy is going to be to try and stay as close as possible to his teammate Daniel Stasuk in order to use him as a little bit of a pace marker over the remainder of the distance. But onwards he comes through turn number 11, and as he does so, well, right now, not really in a race to score big points now, just trying to get some points on the board, but further back Tobias Kruken still holding on to that third place. But James Powelson now starting to get a bit closer here to Kruken and Gray. Through turn number 13 into 14, they drop the brakes, and as they do, Powelson's so close at this point, they might be tempted to make a pit stop, or he might be tempted to start trying to go to move onto Gray. Well, he's going to make a call soon, because they come to the end of lap 21, and Gray defects to the pits there. He absolutely chucks the car in at last possible moment, so he decided to leave it late, not to give any information away to Kruken and Palsland, but that does mean Michael Gray now has set the tempo, and well, if he's tucking into the pits, it must mean that within the next 2 to 3 laps, if not the next lap, we will see his rivals around him coming in, because normally the elite drivers have a habit of all pitting as late as humanly possible because they don't want to come out in all the traffic of the rest of the field. It makes natural sense, but how exactly is it going to play out on that strategy? Because of course Gray initiating the pit stops there for the top 5. We do have Sam Derbyshire into the pits as well, albeit from further down the order. I suspect he's going to come out around 15th place when he emerges from the pit lane. In fact, it might be a bit further back, although there is a sizable gap to Darragh and Sharples. Michael Gray is making his way out the pit lane now. In fact, here he is coming out the pits, and Sam Derbyshire is emerging for the pit lane. Neil Kenyon makes his way on past. Sharples and Cheverton already have, so in fact, those elite drivers are going to be coming out somewhere towards the bottom end of the top 20. So we were a little bit off on our prediction, but Michael Gray emerges, and as he does so, he finds himself right in the mix of traffic. That is not ideal for the Full Tilt Motorsport driver, and that is going to hurt massively, because he's come out behind Sean Sean Cranleigh-Swash, who's yet to take a pit stop, and the Pigeon Racing driver right now wants to chase down Neil Kenyon. Now, Gray will have one benefit from this, which is that Ford Mustang is very quick on the straights, so he will gain a little bit of time on the long straightaways. However, he will lose out in the corners, given the fact he had that dirty air washing over the front of the car as he tries to get the tyres back up to temperature. So I think for Gray, this might be a pit stop that's been called at the wrong time for Full Tilt in Motorsport. Tobias Kruken's immediately into pits, so is Alberto Gravelli. James Powsland, however, has stayed out another lap, as has Pavel Dozal and Daniel Stasuk. So therefore, our top three still running onto a 23rd lap on their initial fuel tank, but the rest of the field really now starting to consider that pit stop window in terms of when's best to come on in, as they're all now starting to make their way past our pit lane entrance. Well, I can tell you that Andrew Fairley stayed out, as has Ruben Berings, so has Brecht Berings. Jack Barker's had a bit of a moment leaving the pit lane from what I understand. We might be getting a replay of that shortly, but right now Michael Gray, this is definitely thrown a thorn in the works, and as we look to the blimp camera, there's Gray caught up behind Sean Cranleigh-Swash. Will Swash peel to the pits? Yes, he does. Meanwhile, where's Tobias Kruken? Well, Kruken's heading out the pit lane already, so that goes to show you the damage that's been done. Where's Gray? Here is Gray, and then we look back to Kruken, and Kruken almost at the pit exit line here. He's going to pick up the speed very shortly, and I think Tobias Kruken is going to be comfortably back ahead of Michael Gray. Yes, he is, and Michael Gray in the end almost loses out to Alberto Gravelli. My good lord, the amount of time that Gray's lost in the pits and lost behind Cranleigh-Swash. That's not to point the finger at Cranleigh-Swash, but Gray there losing an overturn of 4 seconds in the pits through the combined pit stop and coming out into traffic compared to Tobias Kruken and Alberto Gravelli. And as a result now, well, you can see, look at the gap on your screen. That is the demonstration. The best part of a 2.4 second gap, but he's lost out so much time that Alberto Gravelli now is right there with him as they roar the way around. Now, the two McLaren drivers here will be of different fortunes with their tyres, in the fact that Gravelli will need to get some temperature into his tyres. Meanwhile, Gray will have all the temperature back in them now after that one lap. So therefore, he'll feel comfortable. He's not under pressure from the number 90 McLaren behind him. But this has not worked out at all for him. And, well, with James Powsland in the pit lane, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the knife stuck deeper into him here with regards to the fact the damage of that pit stop, with now Powsland getting ready to emerge from the pit lane as soon as they've serviced the car. Daniel Stasuk, by the way, still out there on a 24th lap on his initial fuel tank, as is your pro leader of Ruben Berings. Pavel Dozal was the first of the top two to come into the pits. And, well, where is Powsland? Well, he's now emerging from the pit lane. Here he comes. We look to the blimp camera. Where is Kruken, meanwhile? Well, Kruken's heading out of the final corner, so he is a bit far back. I get the feeling that Powsland may have made the jump here. It's going to feel like an eternity under the pit limiter. It's going to be very close between them now. Kruken in towards turn number 2. And, well, they're practically even Stevens here as they make the way out. And in the end, it is going to be Tobias Kruken back ahead of James Powsland by no more than a second. That is the delta. So Tobias Kruken nailing that pit stop to re-emerge in full place. He will be effectively third once we do see the pit stop from Ruben Berings, as we understand it. But Michael Gray, meanwhile, losing 2 place opportunities there and falling backwards to 5th. So this has not worked out at all for Gray, and almost at risk of falling to 6th place there behind Alberto Gravelli when the pit stops are all complete. Daniel Stasuk into the pit lane by the Wazzle Cap Macron temporary window, and I wouldn't be surprised if Ruben Berings is due his pit stop at the end of the lap. As we do look to those class standings, well, still more to play out. And of course, we've been quite heavily focused on the elite class now. The pit stops all fitted together. But what about in the other classes? Well, the reason why you see the AMs ahead of the pros is because the AMs currently hold a faster class fastest lap versus the pro drivers. And Brecht Berings being the man who's delivered that versus Ruben Berings. They're very close in terms of their respective laps. But as the drivers roar the way onwards, well, we are definitely now heading towards the final third of the race distance. Jack Barker having a bit of a scuffle there with Darren Norquette, but the pro driver getting past the AM driver, and I think Barker there just decided to let it go rather than fight it too hard, as Barker right now just trying to end the race on a high. 7th place currently in the AM class, 5 seconds clear of James Connolly, and to Simon Oldfield, he has got 6 seconds to try and close down. But other changes, well, Luke Checker back out in second in the rookie class as he roars his way through the left-hander. But hold up a second, we've had a bit of drama in the pit lane for Daniel Stasuk, or have we? I believe. No, there's not been drama. Hold up a second. What on earth's going on there? Well, that is Daniel Stasuk and Pavel Dolzal together as they roll the way out. And Daniel Stasuk is, in fact, re-emerged in the pit lane as your race leader. Well, I'm not quite sure why we've had something on the telemetry system to say that Stasuk's been involved in an incident, because right now, the only incident we're seeing is that Stasuk has taken the lead of this race and has leapfrogged his way ahead of Dolzal. And, well, in the end, leapfrogging him by the best part of 2 seconds in the pit lane. That was the difference between the two of them in terms of their end-to-end pit lane times. And with Daniel Stasuk once again demonstrating if he can't get the job done on circuit and qualifying, he'll get it done in the pit lane. And now Pavel Dolzal is going to be on the back foot here to try and find a way to chase down the Acura driver if he can, with the best part of 13 laps to go after this one. Whilst all this has been happening, we have had a little bit of drama for Ruben Berings, who had a bit of a moment. And in fact, we can get a replay of what happened to Ruben Berings. And here is the replay, ladies and gentlemen, as we do cut back to only moments ago in the pit lane. Now, this was Berings leaving the pits, and as he did so, what exactly happened here? I believe, in fact, I don't think there's been an incident. I think what's happened, in fact, is that it seems though there's a glitch with regards to the timing system at the pit lane exit, which is recording a number of drivers as having incidents as they've left the pit lane, but not quite so. So make no mistake, Ruben Berings there just having a comfortable cruise out of the pit lane. One driver who did not have a comfortable moment after emerging from the pits, Jack Barker, is passed by Darren Norquette, and the rear of the car letting go in there, coming out of turn number 8. And for Jack Barker, it's been another day where he and the Japanese machine have just not communicated well together. Indeed, this season so far, not a write-off, but definitely, I think right now you can understand if he feels as though it's a bit of a write-off, but still, he's got another half of the season to try and pick things back together. But as we return to your live racing, ladies and gentlemen, it's still more to come here as time continues to make its way downwards. And as it does, we are on lap 26 now. And, well, we do have most of our battles at this time, at least, have been brought to a bit of a standstill. However, that's not to say we're not going to see fights for all is said and done today. It's really now going to come down to who can keep it together over the remainder of the race distance. Because, as we mentioned earlier, Misano is quite aggressive on the outside tyre, the left side tyre typically, given the amount of load it has to go through. And a number of drivers here will change the left-hand side tyres, but of course there will be an imbalance in tyre life between the outside and the inside tyres, the left to the right, and that can always just catch a driver out if they're a little bit complacent. Looking a bit further down the order, well, we do see here none other than Darren Norquette looking up the inside of Alistair Murray, and he'll creep up the inside then. The rookie leader showing no signs of wanting to fight that through turn number 2. And Murray right now has got his head firmly affixed to the idea that all he wants to do here today is make it back-to-back rookie wins and therefore close the gap to BJ Alvarez. Remember, there are 2 drop scores this season, and you will see some competitors decide not to take part in 2 rounds, just for the simple reason they'll be committing those as their drop scores due to personal circumstances, or the fact they don't want to particularly race that circuit. And it does give opportunities for other drivers to score big and other drivers meanwhile to miss out on those points. And, well, Alistair Murray right now not wasting an opportunity here, and somebody has definitely put a load of tyre marks down there on the exit of turn number 8. And, well, I think that might have been, well, it wouldn't have been where Bark had his spin because he went sideways and then got it back together. But definitely somebody laying the rubber down there, and I wouldn't be surprised if the track marshals would be asked to clear that after the racing is complete here today. As we do, say hello to Jack Barker, or Sir Bottlejob in the YouTube chat there, who says time to make a run for the Challenge Cup. Well, he's going to absolutely go for it in the Challenge Cup, and we'll give you a bit more of a brief about that as of next week's round, because it is a bit of an innovative cup that's been introduced to the second half of the season in order to make sure that drivers do not feel left out if they've had a difficult half of the first season, where it will be all focused around the final 5 rounds and the idea of scoring points in class, and you could pick up a big prize by the end of the season. But right now, trying to score prizes, well, Tobias Kruken is trying to keep away from James Powsland. And, well, last time out at VIR, it was the Solpec Precision Racing Machine versus the Paceworks Esports car, but it wasn't Powsland. It was Pavel Dolzal. This time, now, Kruken's got to get used to the fact he's got another member of the Paceworks Esports team behind him, and Powsland here will now be thinking, okay, what did Pavel tell me about how to beat Kruken last time out at VIR? I may have forgotten at this point, he'll be thinking, because these two, they'll be getting familiar with each other quite quickly. As at the front of the field, well, I can tell you, Daniel Stasuk and Pavel Dolzal have not separated. They've actually got a lot closer. So we do have a fight for the win definitely on. Well, as we do see Kruken there making his way up the inside of Rob Windsor, and, well, timing that to perfection. And Halsoy absolutely diving up the inside there and saying to Rob effectively, look, you are not getting in my way. I'm making sure of it. I'm not giving you a choice. So Windsor there deciding, okay, just going to hold the steering wheel open while they continue their fight together. But as they make the way underneath the gantry camera here, well, we do look to the very front of the field, and this is Stasuk versus Dolezal. And, well, right now, if we ever had the question of whether somebody could keep Stasuk honest, we are seeing that as Dolezal is right there with him as they emerge, coming out of the hairpin at this time around. The gap now down to half a second at this point, but it's been oscillating between 2 tenths and 7 tenths over the last 3 laps. But making their way up towards turn number 13, it is going to be in the remit of Dolezal to try and find a way and to get past, or at least get close enough to put some pressure on. Further back, Halsoy looking for potential move on Kruk, and they're into 12. Thinking about it, he was 2 tenths. He could have potentially tried to put his nose in where it didn't belong, but decided against it. Didn't want to risk making contact and wanted to race fairly. But these drivers definitely continue to push each other as they head towards the end of this lap. And it is looking as though right now the final spot of the podium and, of course, the top step of the podium are in question as to who's going to be occupying it. Somebody's going to have to, but who will it be? And, well, this is going to be the first round of the season where all 3 spots on the elite podium are definitely going to be up for grabs all the way to the end, it would seem. But further back, Ryan Davies looking for an overall move here on Simon Oldfield for 22nd, and will Oldfield there step into the inside, at least for a brief moment, and Davies around the outside there, and, well, the Empire Motorsport at number 85 making another overall position and putting some daylight between himself and Daryl Norquette, the Racing Forces McLaren, that's just a little bit further behind. These two right now continue to push each other onwards, and Simon Oldfield, meanwhile, really here just to wait, watch and listen for an opportunity, given he's got a sizable gap of 13 seconds before he gets to his next next and rival, I should say, of Peter Duke, who is closing on the back of Sean Cranleigh-Swash. And this is a battle we need to keep an eye on, because they've gradually come down. And over the last couple of laps, Peter Duke has been, particularly the last lap, Duke was 1.1 seconds faster than Cranleigh-Swash. I would imagine that the Ford Mustang driver might have had a bit of a nightmare lap as they make their way up towards turn number 1. Well, across the timeline they go. Cranleigh-Swash of 35.78, Duke of 34.87. The Acura driver here is absolutely flying as we jump on board with the DDK with Digital Motor Art number 77. Now, the one thing we have to keep an eye out here is whether Cranleigh-Swash is perhaps dealing with overheating brakes, because the Mustang does have a tendency to heat up its front brakes. It's very aggressive on them, and we're drawing the way out of turns at 4, 5 and in towards 6. Well, the quick fire direction changes here will fall much more happily in the remit of the Acura. I don't know if anybody else noticed there, a bit of brakes going on from Cranleigh-Swash coming through turn number 6, well, and then getting it together, well, heading in towards turn number 8. Well, right now, it does seem as though Cranleigh-Swash not comfortable in his car. Duke, meanwhile, a lot more comfortable by comparison. But we're going to have to hold the phone from this battle for a moment, because for a brief moment, we did see almost change the position between Stasuk and Dolezal down towards turn number 1. That wasn't quite caught on cameras, but you can see here how close the gap is between our top 2 as they head underneath the gantry. And right now, Dolezal really turning the screw here on lap number 30. They're going to have another 8 to go after this one. And right now, Daniel Stasuk under pressure to hold on as we look back from the rear of the 733. Now, what can Stasuk do here to keep the Mercedes behind? Well, he's got to have the confidence in the corners, and he's got to try and maximise that on the corner exit, because that Mercedes is the faster of the 2 cars, even with equivalent rear wing as they make the way on the straight, such as the balance of performance. Until it gets to 6th gear, that's when we do sometimes see the Acura come back, but not here today. And in fact, here comes a move. He's looking one way, then the other, and, well, getting so close, almost taking the camera off the rear of the car. Does there, Dolezal, but by taking a look, he's going to try and squeeze inside. There's a tap between the 2 of them. They survive it just about, but that's going to open up the door. Stasuk has to go defensive into turn 15. All right, the gloves are off now, and Pavel Dolezal has decided the blood's in the water. He's going to go for it. He's going to have to be a little bit firm about this one, because understandably, Stasuk does not want to lose out on a 4th win in 4 appearances this season. Well, across that timeline they go, looking one way, then the other. Keeping Stasuk guessing every step of the way into turn number 1. But Dolezal right now doesn't go for it. He decides, right, I'm just going to try and get him out of position. Stasuk goes defensive to the apex of turn number 2. Dolezal gets a much better exit. Goes defensive to Stasuk through 3. Dolezal made to go working around the outside. Will he go for a lunge up the inside into turn number 4? If he's going to, it's coming quite far back. No, he doesn't. He waits, watches and listens behind as they come through turn number 5, in towards the left-hander of turn number 6, and they reset back to the previous lap. Gap 3 tenths once again as they power their way out to the left-hander. But there's no difference between the 2 of them. These 2 absolutely pushing each other. It's the closest battle on circuit, and we're staying right with it here as Dolezal looks up the inside. It's late under the brakes. Stasuk sees it coming. He keeps the door open, and they just about make the way through, but Stasuk noticeably gets back ahead there. Dolzal has to back off the throttle, as otherwise he would have turned the two of them around. Switches back to the inside. It's a feint. It's a dummy. He's going for it. It's Dolzal as they roar the way out to the corner. Can the Mercedes driver get the traction? Well, now it's going to be a drag race here, and on paper at least, the Mercedes is the faster car on the straights. But as they head in towards turn number 11, Stasuk's not going to back out here, or is he? He is going to have to back out because he's no longer alongside. He tucks back here, but he switches the inside, switches back to the outside, and now Stasuk's like a pendulum. It swings back and forth, looks under braking into 13, can't quite find it, but Pavel Dolzal retakes the lead, and well, as they do, make the way through turn number 14, Stasuk's not stunned either. I think these two are going to be absolutely locking horns all the way to the end now. Fair mind, Tobias Kruken still under pressure, and Palsson, you may have seen that in the rear of your picture briefly moments ago. 3.5 tenths between the two of them. We'll try and get some footage of them when we can, but right now our two leaders, they head on to lap 32, and Pavel Dolzal now trying to hold on for another 7 laps to take victory here and finally end the run of form and dominance of Stasuk's had, but Stasuk's immediately back on the inside. They go toe by toe in towards 2, round the outside of 3 goes Stasuk, but you can see out there right now Dolzal just holding that inside line. He's going to have to absolutely milk the left-hand side tyres that Mercedes to hold on. Stasuk, meanwhile, just seems to have absolutely limitless grip here. Goes outside to inside. 2 when they come into turn number 6. They make contact, they touch, but as they exit out the corner, well, right now Dolzal ahead. Stasuk backs off because he'd know otherwise they would have gained an unfair advantage by pushing the Mercedes driver wide, so they reset and go again. It's absolutely fantastic racing between them, and indeed, Slight Anthony summarises it perfectly. But meanwhile, coming back, there's a change of position as well. Tobias Kruken's just lost out third to James Palsland, and suddenly Paceworks Esports, I don't know what they've left in the tank, but their drivers now are picking up the pace in the final stages of this race and will roaring the way onwards now. Well, Alberto Gravelli has got ahead of Michael Gray in all of this. There's been a change of positions between them, and well, we'll come back and get some replays of what happens to them shortly. Back towards the front of the field for a brief moment, and well, we can see that right now Stasuk's so close here, but not close enough this time, and I think backing off perhaps a little bit and figuring out what he can do on the next lap. Fantastic racing between them, but I think it's going to be the calm before the proverbial storm, and that gives us just as much time to be able to grab a bit of a drink of water there, ladies and gentlemen. Albeit I don't think my cup's going to last. As Dolzal's into the pits! He's into the pits! Surely not! Surely they haven't underfueled that car. If anything, is that a drive-through penalty for instant points? Because if so, that is heartbreak there for Paceworks Esports. They've done so well getting their driver right into the fight, and Daniel Stasuk right now is going to run away with this, and Dolzal making his way down the pit lane. I don't think he's stopping. I think it is a drive-through penalty for instant points racked up, and if so, well, that is an absolute gut-wrencher, but suddenly Daniel Stasuk will walk away with this, and James Palsson right now will have to try and hold on to second all the way. And well, I can confirm, ladies and gentlemen, as I look out my commentary booth window, that Paceworks Esports have not got their pit crew out there. Dolzal has just made his way through the pit lane, and I believe the small taps between the two of them, plus the slight run wide, was enough to trigger the instant limit for the Paceworks Esports driver. So Pavel Dolzal now down to 7th, and well, Daniel Stasuk able to get away with the lead. And I'm sure they'll talk about it after race. There was no malice between them in the fact the battling was absolutely brilliant, but unfortunately, that's what's happened there. With the instant points have been counted out, in the end, it has gone against Dolzal, and it's led to a drive-through, and it's stolen away from us what could have been a titanic battle all the way to the end. But we still got Titanic battle out there, but it's now for second, and Palsland versus Kruken. Well, before we get to resuming their battle, we need to take a look back at how their battle started, and we are going to be seeing how Palsland made that move only months ago on Tobias Kruken, and here is a quick replay. So as they made the way in towards turn number 6, Kruken there getting the power down. A poor exit out the corner, in fact. That's a surprise and not a welcome one to be seen. And as he made his way onwards, well, just simply losing out there did Kruken, and well, Palsland just make his way past as quickly as that. That was a very quick run there, and well, I wouldn't be surprised if perhaps Tobias Kruken there with the slow exit decides to relinquish the position and try and come back at his rival a little bit later as we return to your live racing. As we do come back to it, still more to unfold here before all is said and done. And well, speaking of close battles, Peter Duke, you may remember, he is trying to get a bit close to the back of Sean Cranleigh-Swash. He's got there, but now the question is, what could he do with it? Because he was gaining a second lap on the run up towards the back of Cranleigh-Swash, but suddenly now he's found a face full of Mustang, and unfortunately that mule is absolutely kicking in front of him and saying to him, well, you're not going to get any closer at this point. And Duke, I think, in the dirty air, has lost a bit of pace and lost a... Oh, goodness me, that's proving what we're about to say. Duke there with a bit of a snap twitch, under braking into turn 13. Well, for all the downforce that's on this Acura, the problem that he's got in the 77 is when he's running in the dirty air, that Ford Mustang is punching a massive hole in the air. It's giving him plenty of straight line speed, but it's also doing is taking the downforce off the rear of the car. But as they make the way out of the final quarter, we can see just how close they are as they go on to their 30 full flat. They've got 5 more to go here, and right now Duke's so close that I think he could consider sending it, but the 77 driver, respectful racing, has raced in plenty a sim racing, also a real life racing series with a lot of experience in Formula Vauxhall in the 80s and 90s, if my memory serves me correctly of his bio. Well, Peter Duke right now will know what's a fair move and what's not a fair move as he makes his way around through turn 5 and in towards 6. As these two continue to push each other to the limit, and a bit of a slider from Cranleigh-Swash. You can see both drivers right now running on the limit. We say hello there to Sky King, who I believe is Tobias Kruken, confirming he did have a slowdown coming out of turn number 6, and that explains how the position has changed between himself and Palsland, and we do appreciate that, Tobias. Sorry to hear about the slowdown, and well, Overdrive's continuing on. We also say hello to Joey there in the YouTube chat, who's enjoying himself, and that's good to see. Hope you're doing well, Joey. And well, as that's a big run wide, and that's Cranleigh-Swash completely missing the braking zone for turn number 10. He comes back, and well, as he does so, I think some frustration there, weaves and bobs to the side, and I don't think that's to try and send Morse code to Peter Duke. I think that's Cranleigh-Swash right now beating himself up for what was a very easy to make mistake, and well, just running so deep and lose out to 4th place in the AM class to Peter Duke. But can he come back a bit later on? My gut feeling says that with Duke having all that pace in clear air, he's going to run away with this. But from them, here is Andrew Fairley, and right now the debutant for NJB Performance today is going to find himself right in the thick of battling with a man who was on course for victory at one point, and Paolo Dozal is all over the back of him here, having been relegated to 8th place, cuts up the inside here in towards the hairpin, and well, there Dozal makes the move happen, or does he? Now it's going to be a drag race between two V8 machines as they make the way down the back stretch. Dozal on the left of your picture, Fairley on the right, Dozal where he needs to be, however, which is up the inside, and coming in towards turn number 12. Will Fairley back out here? I think he's going to have to. It's a wider circumference. He does indeed have to back out, and in towards turn number 14 they come. Fairley looks for it, but he's not close enough. Gives the tap to his rival on the rear, and will they both emerge unscathed from that one, at least for the time being. As further on back, we do have James Ibram here looking for a move on Daniel Shilcock. Can he find it coming in towards turn 12 and 13? He's going to try and force the door open. Doesn't quite make it happen there and has to back off, as we have had a pit stop for Cranleigh-Swash, and that was a quick last gasp of fuel there, so Cranleigh-Swash had under-fueled and will had to have a quick 3-second stop. Well, as they roar the way on around and in towards the next couple of braking zones, well, plenty more to come between our drivers, and we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen next as they head onwards. As we do, well, right now Ibram's so close, he'll think about the moving towards turn number 1. Does he go for it? Yes, he does. Onto the brakes there. The compensating brake is going red hot up the inside, and now Shilcock says, no, you don't. And Ibram says, yes, I do, because they switch from outside to inside and inside to outside. And James Ibram there using his knowledge of the circuit and the flow of the quarters to get ahead of his pro rival. Lovely work from the elite driver. But as they come on around, well, we are heading towards the end of lap number 36, and Daniel Stasuk is not too far away from going on to lap 37, up an ultimate lap. But let's come to your pro leader at the moment, and here is Ruben Berings right now, who's trying to hold on to 9th place overall. He's got Sam Derbyshire for company, and I think Ruben is quite enjoying battling with the elite drivers at this point. And well, Christer Halsoy not too far behind. There's Halsoy in the rear of the picture. He really has been second best in the pro class today, but 6.5 seconds behind. He has kept Ruben Berings honest for the most part, and that's something that has to be said. We are seeing Christer Halsoy after his absolutely brilliant performance at VIR. We may not have been the pace of Berings today, but he's definitely been close to it, and if he can find a couple attempts here and there, I wouldn't be surprised if Christer Halsoy really becomes the second man in the Pro Championship all the way to the end of the season, because he is definitely demonstrating a lot of pace in this Corvette, something we've not typically seen from Corvette drivers in previous seasons of the GT3 League. Sam Derbyshire there gets back ahead of Ruben Berings, and Berings drops to 10th place overall. Not he's going to be too upset about that. Well, we are now onto that penultimate lap. as our drivers continue to accumulate the time, and indeed we're only about a minute away from calling time on the race, so we will squeeze a 38th lap in because Daniel Stasuk is halfway around on this lap, so he's got plenty of time out there. Well, we do look back to Jack Barker, who once again, or surprise, surprise, he finds himself in the close company of his good friend and rival James Connolly as they come out of turn number 8 there. And I think right now it's almost deja vu here, and don't worry, we haven't rewound the tape back the best part of 30 minutes to their battle from early on. They just happen to find each other battling for 7th in the AM class once again. And will Barker there, much better entry in towards the hairpin and exit for the most part. But Connolly's McLaren there, the stronger of the two in the low-speed exit traction zones. And, well, now you can see how Barker just starts to gain a little bit in the draft, but not really close enough here to try and fashion a move, at least at this point in time. He may be able to do so on the final lap. But speaking of final laps, here's your race leader, Daniel Stasuk, 5.6 seconds clear of James Powsland, goes on to one last tour of the circuit as the white flag waves, and as he makes his way on through, turns 1, 2 and 3. He's got a bit of traffic, but for Stasuk, he knows that this traffic, he's just got to pick his way past it very calmly. He doesn't need to do anything dramatic here because he's got a comfortable advantage with which to work with. Second place man, James Powsland, well, he's comfortably second now by 2 seconds over Tobias Kruken, and, well, the number 14 driver for Solpec Precision Racing. He has got Alberto Grilli who's come on strong, and this is actually interesting. The Effect Simulations McLaren driver, Grilli, not on the pace in qualifying, struggled in the first stint of the race, but he seems to have found some pace in the late stage of this race. Where was this pace early on is the big question, because he is setting purple sectors now towards the end, particularly Sector 3 is the fastest of everybody in the second stint. So Grilli there, I think he's unlocked something, but just a bit late in the day. But it goes to show you that we really do have multiple stories in the elite class here, with a lot of drivers finding their pace later on, whether it's Paceworks Esports, alternatively Effect Simulations, Grilli. Well, that'll be interesting going into the second half of the season, because if they can iron out those kinks, we could suddenly see our Elite Championship be blown wide open again right as we make our way into the final 5 rounds. But right now, with most battles having calmed down and Jack Barker and James Connolly too far away from each other, ready to look at exchanging paint, but we are on, of course, to see this one out very shortly. And Alistair Murray right now, your rookie leader, in a happy place here as he makes his way in towards the final quarter. He will finish the lap down because here comes your race leader, and he's going to take his 4th win in 4 appearances of the season. He had to work very hard, but Daniel Stasuk in the end has taken the test of time, and he's held on to the win over on an elite ahead of James Powsland, who comes on home in 2nd place. Paceworks Esports with Tobias Kruken rounding off your top 3 ahead of Alberto Grilli, with then Michael Gray in 5th place. Stuart Reynolds will take 6th, and then we will see Pavel Dozal relegated to 7th after that drive-through penalty and gutted by that. But still, he'll take the positives from today, no doubt about it. Andrew Fairley on his debut will take 8th place ahead of Sam Derbyshire. And then we will see a victory again in the Pro Class there for Ruben Berings, albeit kept honest at a distance by Christer Halsoy for Track 6 Racing, who takes 2nd in Pro Class. Brecht Berings there will make it another AM win here today. What a drive from the DDK Racing Team driver. A monstrous performance to 12th place overall. And it'll be James Ibrahim 13th for the Effect Simulations Carbon outfit ahead of Daniel Shilcock, 3rd place finisher in the Pro Class. Well done to him for Track 6 Racing. We'll then have Nils Bauckhage finishing in 15th, with Darren Sharples, your runner-up in the AM class, and doing it well to finish there after all the ups and downs of the race today. The 777 driver will fancy his luck ahead of Matthew Sheraton and Nathan Scott. And then we will see just behind Nathan Scott, Neil Kenyon, who takes 3rd place on the AM podium. Well done to Neil. That's a solid performance and another deserved one at that, ahead of Peter Duke, who fought hard to a 4th place finish in the AM class in the end, soldiered his way upwards through the field. And then it will be Ryan Davies and Darren Orkett who finish your lead lap finishers off here. Of course, a big shout out to Alistair Murray, who we did see cross the line, your winner in the rookie class, albeit a lap down at the very end, but still getting the rookie win in. All our rookies finishing a lap down, with Luke Checker and Alex Brown rounding off your rookie top 3, and Darian Giacovelli unfortunately being the sole retiree. But with that, let's take a look to those race results, ladies and gentlemen, as our drivers all cool and calm on down. And let's take a look at the provisional results subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries, as we do take a look to the scenic view. So what a race here today at the Misano World Circuit. Marco Simoncelli and indeed drama battles. It had it all, but at the very end, the man who did not fall was Daniel Stasuk there for NJB Performance, winner overall, with some immense pressure put on him by none other than your 7th place finisher, Pavel Dolzal. The Paceworks esports driver kept the NJB Performance Acura driver honest all the way through, but in the end, it was a drive-through due to instant points that was the difference between the two of them. Between them, James Powelson was second, the Paceworks esports driver picking up another podium. He'll be absolutely pleased with that. And then round off your overall podium, Tobias Kruken there for Solpec Precision Racing, who held off the challenge of Alberto Grilli in the late stages. Fourth, it went to the McLaren driver for Effect Simulations of Alberto Grilli, and Michael Gray rounded off your overall and elite top 5 there for Full Tilt B Motorsport. Stuart Reynolds finished 6th for Fury Simsport ahead of Pavel Dolzal, with then Andrew Fairley on his debut, a solid drive there for the NJB Performance driver, taking 8th and just keeping ahead of Sim Coach's Sam Derbyshire by 2 seconds at the checkered flag. You then had your pro winner of Ruben Berings for DDK with Race Anywhere. Having put it on pole, he was able to gradually pull away, but not without being kept honest by Christer Halsoy, your run-up there in the pro class, who was just behind Best the Rest in 11th for Track6 Racing. And it was the Audi of Brecht Berings for DDK with Digital Motor Art, who brought on home an absolutely sensational victory there, and he adds another win to his cap, 12th place overall, but winner in the AM class. James Ibram was 13th for Effect Simulations Carbon in an upwards day today, making his way through the field, with Daniel Shilcock there, 3rd of your pro finishers on the podium and 14th overall. The Track6 Racing driver will be pleased with that, and it's a 2-3 for the team in the pro class. Nils Bauckhage rounded off your top 15 overall for NJB Performance, having to recover from what was a difficult start to the race, and then we'll continue to make our way for the overall results, now focusing on the class podium finishers, with your second AM driver being Darren Sharples in the 777, who finished 16th on the road, but for Old Dudes in Cars, 2nd place on the AM podium. He'll be smiling at that one. With Matthew Sheraton finishing 5th, it should be pointed out. In fact, 4th, I should say, in the pro class, but a special mention, because remember, he started 35th on the grid and fought his way all the way through to a 17th place finish for Aztec Racing. You have to go all the way down to Neil Kenyon in 19th place to find your 3rd place finisher in the AM class there for UK Sim Racing Price. Well done to him on a solid result. 5 seconds clear of Peter Duke for DDK with Digital Motor Art, who round off your top 20. And then looking further down the field, it comes to 23rd place, where we will get to see your rookie winner, Alistair Murray there for UK Sim Racing Hill, a lap down on the final lap, but still, he'll be smiling with that one. That's back-to-back wins for the Mercedes driver. In 28th, well, the podium that he missed last time out at VIR on his debut, he's finally found it this time. Does the privateer of Luke Checker. Well done to him at your 2nd place runner in the rookie class there in the Ferrari 296. And a podium there for Alex Brown for Slow and Steady Racing at 3rd in the rookie class, 30th overall. He may have been 2 laps down, but that's some big points coming his way. And well, as we look further on down the order there, we did have several retirements, including Nathan Anstis, Casper Brotner, Daniel Pays, Chancellor Lepet, Darian Giacovelli, and Helder Gonzalez. Commiserations to them. But going to the individual class finishing positions now, and after 38 laps turned, starting off with the elites, we got to see there Daniel Stasuk taking that victory by 4.6 seconds over James Powsland, with Tobias Kruken round off your elite podium. Behind them, Alberto Grilli a further half a second, and then it was 1.5 seconds to Michael Gray, who took 5th place today. Stuart Reynolds was 6th there in the Ford Mustang that wasn't quite on the pace, but in the end had to settle for 6th, falling away gradually as the distance went on, but he was still at the best part there of 9 seconds clear of Pacebox Esports' Pavel Dolzal, who's 7th place there, not representative of what he brought to the table today, with Andrew Fairley a further 3 seconds behind in 8th place at NJB Performance. And now sim coaches Sam Derbyshire and James Ibram for Effect Simulations Carbon, who round off your elite top 10. Nils Bauckhage finished best the rest in 11th, and then your sole retiree was Helder Gonzalez for Track6 Racing, retiring after 3 laps. Coming to the pro class, and the story of the pro class was led by Ruben Berings for DDK with Race Anywhere, 5 seconds clear at the finish over Track6 Racing's Christer Halsoy, and there's a Track6 2-3 today, a double podium for the team, because Daniel Shilcock was a further 14 seconds behind, and comfortably clear of Matthew Sheraton, who was a further 13 seconds off. The Aztec Racing driver, however, fought his way through and was 10 seconds clear of Nathan Scott at the finish, with the Empire Motorsport driver there round off the pro top 5. There's Ryan Davies in 6th ahead of Darren Orkett, with retirements for both Casper Brotner for Old Dudes in Cars and Giles Lepet for DDK with Race Anywhere. Coming to the AM class, the 3rd of our classes, and here we got to see difficulties for many, but not so for Brecht Berings, who dominated today for DDK with Digital Motor Art and took victory by 24.5 seconds. Old Dudes in Cars, Darren Sharples was the best the rest in 2nd, ahead of UK Sim Racing Price's Neil Kenyon, and well, a great result there on the podium for Kenyon. 5 seconds clear of Peter Duke for DDK with Digital Motor Art, who enjoyed a great battle with Sean Cranleigh-Swash, but in the end it was a pit stop for Sean Cranleigh-Swash for fuel that was needed, and Simon Oldfield was promoted to 5th place place for Hoof Hearted, having started 36th on the grid. Well done to him. Sean Cranleigh-Swash then taking 6th for Pigeon Racing ahead of UK Sim Racing Stuart's James Conley, with Jack Barker and Rob Windsor for Made for Racing UK Sim Racing Stuart both finishing a lap down as well. They finished off your race finishers with retirements for both Nathan Anstis for UK Sim Racing Hill and Old Dudes in Cars Daniel Pays. Lastly, coming to the rookie class, we may have only had 4 drivers here, but give them a round of applause as much as everybody else, because Alistair Murray took victory today in the rookies. Back-to-back wins then for the UK Sim Racing Hill driver in style, 51 seconds clear of Luke Checker, the runner-up. From the privateer in the Ferrari, it was then Slow and Steady Racing's Alex Brown who ran off the rookie top 3 a lap down, and we did have the retirement, unfortunately, for Swansea Gold's Darian Giacovelli, who led in the early stage of the race with quite a firm pass on Alistair Murray, and a good one at that. But ladies and gentlemen, that concludes your rundown of the provisional results. And well, very shortly, we are going to be giving you an update on the provisional standings after the best part of 5 rounds of racing. But before we do, of course, we do need to consider doing our giveaway winners here for round number 5. And without further ado, let's get to our giveaways. Now, we do have a few permutations we've got to consider here with our giveaways today, and that means it is going to take a little bit longer to work our way through them, in the fact that firstly, we are going to input all of our drivers who took part today, all 36 of them. As you'll see, their names all appear on screen now. However, we do need to remove some names, and it's not just our previous winners, but I believe we are also removing from the rankings here, as I just double-checked my notes. We are going to be removing both Simon Bamber, who wasn't on the grid today, and also Si Anthony, who wasn't on the grid today, from this going forward, as UK Sim Racing admin members. They have requested that they're no longer included in the raffle draws, which is very nice of them, and they're respecting the positions as series administrators. But without further ado, we do have our 36 drivers on here, and in terms of names we need to remove them. Well, we don't need to remove Simon Bamber because he's not here today. Do we need to remove Ryan Davies? Yes, we do. And there is Ryan M. Davies. Let's take him out of the list. We also need to remove Xander Hill. Well, he wasn't here. And Pavel Dolzal needs to be removed. So there he goes as well. So we've removed our names. Let's spin the wheel and find out who is our 3-month VRS subscription giveaway winner. And your winner is going to be James Powsland from Paceworks Esports. Well done to James for becoming a 3-month winner. Indeed, that is his first award of the season from the VR subscription giveaway. We now come to the 2-month winners. And as we do, well, we've got some names to remove here, including Jack Barker. He needs to be terminated from the list, and he has done so. Also, Simon Oldfield, who I believe is there. There he goes. And we've also got to remove both Daz Sharples, or Darren Sharples as he's known more formally, and Simon Bamber, who's not on the list. So there, they're all removed. Let's spin the wheel and see who's going to take home the 2-month prize. And Stuart Reynolds takes it by a sneaky margin, but the Fury SimSport driver gets that 2-month VRS subscription. Congratulations to Stuart. And last but not least, let's do our 1-month giveaway there. And well, we do need to remove a few names, including Pavel Dolzal. We also need to remove James Armstrong. Well, he wasn't here today, nor was Christopher Bates, nor was Si Anthony. So only one name to go. And let's spin the wheel and find out who's our 1-month winner. And it's going to be Nathan Scott who takes home the 1-month prize. Congratulations to Nathan, and those are your VRS giveaway subscription winners for today. And they will be contacted by the UK Sim Racing admin team later on this week to receive their prizes. But from those prizes, let's give you an update there on the points after 5 rounds of the championship. And we start off with the elite class. And here we can see in the elite standings, it's Daniel Stasuk who is tearing away at the front of the field. Arguably dodged a bit of a bullet today, given the battle that he did have with Pavel Dolzal, and that's reflected with Dolzal moving up into second ahead of Nils Bauckhage, who had a difficult day today and has fallen to third. Stuart Reynolds sits in fourth for Fury SimSport, not quite on the pace that he wanted today, and therefore falling back into the clutches of Tobias Kruken, whose consistency for Soul Pet Precision Racing is moving him closer to the top 3. And Sam Derbyshire, Mr. Consistent in his own right, sits in 6th place there ahead of Milton Tomlinson Dennis, and it's Alberto Gorelli, James Powsland and Joe Newman who round off the top 10. Outside the top 10, only by result countback, it's Austin William Campbell, and then we do have in 12th the battle between Simon Bamber and James Ibrahim for Effect Simulations Carbon, with then the rest of the elite field consistent of James Armstrong, Casper Tunstead, Jarrett Lee, Michael Gray, Helder Gonzalez and Andrew Fairley. Coming on to the Pro Class meanwhile, and here the complexion, it is a lot closer because at the very top, it is the battle between Ruben Berings and, well, what we can see there is that following this round, a decision has been made by the admin team and Brecht Berings has been promoted to the Pro Class, and this happened after today's race, so therefore that's why Brecht was demonstrated as being in the AM class on the broadcast, but he has subsequently now been moved to the Pro Class. So with all the points and finishing positions adjusted for all the previous results, it means now it's the battle of the Berings brothers, and well, behind them, Ryan Davies and Daniel Shilcock sitting third on 94 points apiece. It's definitely going to be an interesting Pro Class because it's going to be a Berings family scuffle, and then who is going to pick up the pieces behind, or who can get involved in it and potentially act as mediator, if not jump ahead of them. But it'd be rude of us not just to talk about Ryan Davies and Daniel Shilcock without considering Christer Halsoy is only 4 points behind. So we've got a top 5 that is closing up, with 6th place going the way of Casper Brotner at this time on 76 points, only 4 ahead of Giles Lepert. Darren Norquette sits in 8th on 70 points ahead of Xander Hill, and then we do have Nathan Foster rounding off your Pro top 10. Best of the rest in the length is Cy Anthony, with Nathan Scott, Matthew Sheraton, Malik Bass and Christian Maltrek rounding off your Pro standings. And again, I must say congratulations to Brecht Berings for being promoted to the Pro Class there. Indeed, his performances have absolutely been of the top tier so far, and we look forward to seeing what he's able to do now he's moved up a division as of next round. Coming to the AM class, and here we can see there is the story right now of a single point between Darren Sharples and Sean Cranleigh-Swash, but Neil Kenyon is only a further 4 points behind. It's a three-way fight at the top with the points adjusted for Brecht Berings being promoted, and well, right now these three are all very close together, and suddenly this AM Championship has really come alive. Tom Weston sits in 4th, a sizable best part there of 26 points off of the top 3, and between Tom Weston, Jack Barker, Simon Oldfield, James Connolly, Daniel Pays and Peter Duke, it is only 11 points. So we've got a huge battle for 4th place in our hands, as much as we've got a titanic battle for the top 3 places. Sitting in 10th is Rob Winter, a further 9 points behind, and then Nathan Anstice sits in 11th on 42 points. Comfortably clear Matt Edmondson and Jeffrey Damon, and yet score any points, Ryan Woolsey, Hendrik Ziegel, and also Ashley Brooks. And I do believe that Hendrik Ziegler is going to be joining us as of next round, and we look forward to seeing the Venari Racing driver on the grid. Then coming to the rookie class, but last but by no means least in our Drivers' Championships, and here we can see Alistair Murray leads by 25 points over BJ Alvarez, with Alvarez not on the grid today and therefore locking in 2-0 scores, and we would presume those are going to be what would be his drop scores at the end of the season, presuming he is back as of next week, and we will see whether Push the Standard driver brings the standard back to the fray. If not, John Davis will be closing even faster for the wrong stuff ahead of Stuart Pearson, who's only 2 points behind, and it's a further 2 to Jordan Lee Jones. Sitting in 6th is Christopher Bates for the Triple LA team, and then we do have Richard Jones for Slow and Steady Racing just ahead of teammate Alex Brown in 7th and 8th. We're being a further point to Dan Oliver Fox and another point to Darian Giacovelli, as the bottom end of the top 10 is as closely contested as the top end of the top 10 in the rookies. Outside the top 10, it's a further 5 points to Pavel Bruce, who wasn't on the grid today, and we hope to see him back in a week's time, with Luke Checker, Simon Cheshire, Thomas Helmer, Steve Hughes, Simon Hartley and Reese Kitley completing your rookie standings with points, and on 0 points so far, Martin Fernie in 18th place. Lastly, coming to the Teams Championship, and your team's top 15 sits as follows. 10 points clear is DDK with Digital Motor Art, and they'll be hoping to steer clear of NJB Performance, who've had a bit of a hammer blow today. They didn't get the points they wanted, but they'll be sure to bounce back next week. You can count on it. However, the top 2 have got a sizable gap now to Old Dudes in Cars, who sit in 3rd, only 5 points ahead of Tractics Racing. DDK with Race Anywhere, they sit in 5th and find themselves moving forward, but having to fend off the charge of Paceworks Esports behind them. And it's Slow and Steady Racing 150 points, 3 ahead of UK Sim Racing Prize, with the UK Sim Racing sister team of Hill just behind them by 7, and UK Sim Racing Stuart completing the trio in 10th place and 124. 10 points behind them, it's Effect Simulations, and then we have Pigeon Racing, Fury Simsport, Push the Standard, and Solpet Precision Racing round off your top 15. In 16th, only 2 points behind Solpet Precision Racing is SimCoach on 80 points, looking to break their way back in as of next round. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to be on the grid or at least wanting to know more about the UK sim racing community or everything in between, we do of course recommend you go to our official website firstly, and that is uksimracing.co.uk. And as our website appears on screen now, we're the home of all information at UK Sim Racing, with its intuitive homepage and separate pages where you can catch all of our live streams and videos on demand and also find out more about our partners and our active series. You could not have a simpler website in the world to be able to access all the information you need to become part of the UK sim racing community. And indeed, recently renovated, and we'd love to have your thoughts on it. But indeed, head to the uksimracing.co.uk website for all the information you need to be on the grid with us. But if you don't want to go to our website, perhaps you're more of a social media person, we do recommend you follow us on Twitter, and that's at twitter.com/UKSimRacing_, where you can stay up to date with all the latest news and announcements and all things at UK Sim Racing. We'll also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our title sponsor for this season. And that, of course, is the Virtual Racing School, and their web address being VRS.racing. And established in 2016, the Virtual Racing School aims to help sim racers get faster through the provision of top-tier software and hardware, which draws upon the knowledge and experience of both real-life racing drivers and sim racing professionals. A VRS subscription, extremely popular with sim racers around the world, provides an intuitive solution for combining data analysis and coaching, which may be used by racers at all levels to take their racing to the highest level. Meanwhile, the VRS Direct Force Pro line of wheelbases and pedals offers the cutting-edge in sim racing hardware as used by more professional sim racers and real-life racing drivers than any other brand in the world, including Formula 1 sensation Oscar Piastri. So if you want to get faster, be sure to head to VRS.racing today to find out more. But ladies and gentlemen, with that, we turn our attentions to the second half of the season, and in round number 6 in a week's time, we head to France for the Circuit de Nevers and Magny-Cours. Once a staple of GT World Challenge Europe, it has gradually settled its way into the distance and is now more focused on national racing in France. But whether it has been a far cry of its international status in the past, we're going to be reviving the Magny-Cours circuit in round number 6, and with all the racing action taking place on Sunday the 3rd of August 2025, you can catch it as if it were live on Monday the 4th of August. But until then, we've been UK Sim Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Brit.Media. Follow me on, and until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and much like our drivers, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.